Seems good.
Hello and welcome to the Rock and Roll to Success. Today I have my friend Nichole Morris. She helps creators build online connections without feeling gross. So what's up, Nicole? Welcome to the show.
I'm- Honestly, I feel like a fangirl. I'm just happy to be here, especially since I've been like watching your other episodes with like Jacob and Redham. I'm like, oh my God, am I now a superstar? Do I get to be on the journey? I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome. We're here to turn you into a rock star that you've always wanted to be.
But it depends. Do I get like cool shades and like the makeover and a cape or something? Or
Yeah, you can wear whatever you want, like a
yeah,
leather jacket and those aviator glasses and ride a Mustang.
I'm in. I'm in. Sign me up. I'm good to go.
That's awesome. So before we started, you were laughing so much. Like you told me that you just got out of something and you're feeling much better. So how was that? How did you get into it? How did you get out of it?
Okay. Well, yeah. So I've been very depressed for maybe, I think back to like last April. Now that I think about it. So a lot of my content will say that, but for me, do you mind if I do like backstory? Because I'm
No, go
trying to
ahead,
do it.
please.
Okay. So it's now what, like a little over a year ago, I quit my job. I fell for the quit your job and start a business. But the caveat or the little part no one tells you is have an idea of what you want to do, have the clarity, maybe make sure you're validated the idea already, and then make the jump. I did not. I quit my job. I didn't think about anything. I didn't think about my finances. I was like, let's do this.
You just did it.
Yes. But the problem for me though was I had a whole bunch of ideas and things I wanted to do. And clarity was not in the equation. We jump forward some months. I won't tell the whole story, but the point was I found myself one day thinking, I'm not making any movement. Like the fears of, was this a mistake? Am I not qualified to be an entrepreneur? I'm not good to be enough to be starting a business started to creep in. And I think for me, it was like a mental game of, whether or not I think I'm even capable of doing what I think is passionate because I've only had a mission. Further down the line, I had some routines I did or whatever, but then my longest depressive spout actually ended up with me being on the floor in the dark, laying there trying to get the energy and to get up. But the problem there for me was just that I always thought depression was an imagination that people kind of created in order to not do things. I didn't think this is a real medical thing, right? So then I had my neurologist and my psychiatrist tell me, no, you need some help. You need to fix this. And of course, I didn't do medication and I didn't really move. And maybe this is too long of a story, but I had a conversation with Redham and I had a conversation with my friend Joseph that actually made me identify what my biggest problems were. So I was helping Redham kind of create his own calendar because I'm a nut about schedules. And it was a really good kind of enlightened conversation around how important it is to actually have routines so that you can measure the success that you're doing so that you're not like me, like I'm not doing anything and day in and day out and feeling like this mental structure of nothing's happening. And then a friend, ironically, I made through another friend I made through X, who I didn't know at the time is like a seven-figure entrepreneur, but he has like
Wow.
no follower. It doesn't do anything. So I thought he was a scam page. Until we started on calls and he told me, everyone who's I know that's successful has a calendar, and the point of having schedules and routines isn't because it makes you oh so boring. It's because it helps you have structure and knowing what you need to be doing. So a combination of those calls for me actually made me realize just the fact that my eating, my sleep, every part of my life that I deemed unimportant was actually contributing to my own depression and my sadness. Um, Ironically, I don't like exercising. I hate exercising. I'm the person who complains through every exercise. I will be on the floor, but I feel better after I've actually exercised. Waking up early makes me feel like I'm winning the world even while people are sleeping, and it became like I guess like mental cues as well as having like my own schedule made me feel like I'm actually doing something with my life. And I mean, I haven't been on the dark corner on the floor for a week or two, and I'm positive, I'm hopeful, and for the first time in I think since like last April, I kind of found myself again, and I'm good, and I'm trying to like ride this high as long as possible because even though I might be like chronic depressive, and so it's not completely something that I can get rid of, it shows up less and less. I feel like this is a really long story to just answer
No,
your
it's
question.
not at all. It's an awesome story. And I saw that you wrote about it as well, like how a schedule cured my depression. So I can see how having a bit more of structure to your like daily schedule or your weekly, monthly, whatever it is, schedule helped you and like building new habits and how that might have helped. But do you think when you were in your job before you quit, uh, did you like having a bit more of structure because when you have a 9 to 5, you have like the time in which you have to clock in, clock out, that type of thing. You have more like accountability because you know your boss will tell you to fuck off if you slack too much. And like, did you think you sort of missed that bit of, or was that not a thing for you?
Actually, no, because I used to be a nut about schedules, actually. I had a calendar so in depth that I had my bathroom breaks, my eating habits, literally anything and everything on my schedule.
Wow.
My job, ironically, I didn't have anyone on my back. It was all me. But I think the difference there for me also was that I had other people to respond to, right? So I had to book meetings with other people. I had things I had to turn into other people. Like there's accountability. There was social unit. One of the big differences about me leaving and being on my own to try to build something is I don't have that community base also. I don't have anyone to talk to. It's just me and my mind, and sometimes it's too easy to go dark versus having a dark moment when I'm with somebody else and then being able to snap me out in a really quick manner. But also, what's interesting on this side of things is my calendar, even now that I'm structured and have like my routines, it's not as bad as it used to be, which is also interesting. So they're like, I guess, evolutions, give or take.
But you do still put your friends on the calendar, don't you?
Oh my God, did I tell you that? Did I tell someone that? How did you know that?
Yeah, I'm a psychic.
God, I do actually. Yeah. I have a calendar specifically for like relationships because poor memory, and I don't want to fall into like the trap of, yeah, I need to talk to so and so, and then 5, 6 months later, there's no contact points. I want people in my life to know that they're important. But oh my God, I can't believe you know that. You've really done your research.
Yeah, you talk about all of those things on your podcast.
I can't believe you even listened to my. I really thought the only person ever who listened to my podcast was Redum. I was like, okay, I could talk about anything, and no one knows anything that's going to be happening in my podcast, and it's fine. But now I feel seen.
Yeah, now everyone that listens to this will watch your podcast, Solopreneur Sanity,
Oh my
and know
gosh.
all of your secrets.
Yes. Hopefully, we'll have some happier stories coming up soon. So
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's our objective anyways. So what do you have coming up now that you're in a better place? How do you see things? What are you up to?
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I feel like I'm trying really hard not to give you like the long story to answer the question, but for me, I realized that building a personal brand, as important as it may be, you have to prioritize financial components in your life as well. And yeah, I have not for a year. I've gone lucky with house sale and other things here, but right now I'm actually trying to get a job while I'm trying to build so that I can take care of like basic needs and make sure that I'm good enough and coming from a mental perspective to do business. So, ironically, I'm in the last stage of an interview for a job I don't even think I'm qualified for, making more money than I've ever, if I get it, it's more money than I've ever gotten in any role I've ever had, which is crazy. But I only applied for it because of the community I made on X. Like, yeah, just go for it. Go do what you want to do. And I'm like, okay, so here we go. Now I'm here, and yeah, it's crazy. And on the other side, I want to do my mission in life is just to help people realize that they're capable of doing more than they think. I've never had something tangible until maybe like a week ago. I was like, oh, networking. You can actually gauge your relationships. That's something you can control. So actually, I'm building on that too. Ironically, I feel like I don't want to make this a Redum conversation, but he helps me a lot. Ironically, he gave me an idea to help him, and then I made a template that I probably should be pushing on my profile, but I have not. Yeah, we're getting there. So, outside of that, I am building a course on the outside, and I'm having a project with Fudge. I don't want to curse on your podcast with Redum on networking.
You can curse there. That's no problem.
Okay. So building that on the side, which for me is more productive than I've been in a while. And if I have the confidence to do it or not, I might actually pick up a project that I've already been greenlit for that I haven't done yet. It's structuring pitch decks for tech companies.
So that's awesome. Like, how could you even be depressed with so many things going on and so many cool things, by the way, potentially getting a job that you didn't even feel qualified for, and then like, did you get any imposter syndrome or something? And like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. It happens. I've also had some of these situations when you're like, oh my God, why are they what do they want with me anyways? Like, don't they know that I'm not that good or something? But yeah, you're doing so many cool things at the same time. That's awesome.
To be honest, hearing you say that, it feels different because I think it's like super simple for me to like try to compare myself to somebody else and what they're doing. I'm trying to break that habit, but I think it's because I look at online and I'm listening to friends and what they're doing, and some days, right, I'm measuring what they've done on large scale, like weeks, months, to days in my own period. I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more, like the concept of time and stuffing more in there. But in terms of like interviewing, I actually cry. I don't know if I should admit that. I cry in every interview I've
Before or
ever had.
after? Both?
Oh, yeah, I don't know why I'm telling you this. But I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, because the way that I'm trying to look at it now is I'm only speaking from my actual experiences and just seeing if what I've actually accomplished in my life is good enough. Although ironically speaking, I think I only got like to the interview and it's because of ChatGPT. It did not read my resume. It did not write my resume. I read a post about a guy who was using ChatGPT to ask questions related to a role, and I was like, okay, how do I do this? And I think for the first time, also since trying to like build on my own and kind of being on my own, it reminded me of things I've actually accomplished in my life. It's like reminders. I don't know if you've ever done that. I would totally recommend if you if you forgot that you actually have skills and you're a person who knows how to do things, to have like a quick tip here and there,
But with ChatGPT, or how do you do it?
right? Yes and no. With ChatGPT for resumes, yes, because it works. But also for me, it's just people. Having like good quality people around who kind of don't take like your BS, and you going into this pity party of misery. And I think more importantly, it's when they start pointing out things that are real, like actual experience based, instead of the you're a great person. It's like, that's great, but how? Do you have examples for me? Because it feels good to hear, but unless I know what that looks like in my life, it's not helpful. But it's good. For the first time, actually, I think in my life, I actually have a group of people who are healthy and good for me. And ironically, all met online. Oh my gosh, I'm one of those stories. But yeah.
And where's the best place to meet these kinds of people that you can really rely on? Is it only on X, or do you meet them somewhere else as well?
So, oh yeah, because you don't know. I don't think I've talked about my situation. So for me, yes, it's only been on X. But a couple of years ago, I had a car accident, two back-to-back car accidents. So for me right now, I can't
Wow.
actually, yeah. So I
We
can't be
can
in
go
public.
back to that later.
But I can't technically go in public really for long periods of time, which is why if I ever talk about being outdoors, you'll notice it's only two places. It's Barnes and Noble and it's in nature. I go in Barnes and Noble when it first opens when there's nobody there because I can't regulate sound. So like normal volumes are too loud for my mind, for my head, and then next thing you know, I'm having like a 3 hour headache and I can't think or focus. So it can't be around people, let alone two or three. So me going out to socialize with people, it's like I need you to use your inside voice and then like make it a lot lower. So it's like a whisper, and then we can talk. And I don't think you can do that. It's like let's meet people and not speak.
Yeah,
So
like
I'm all on like,
sign language.
yes. I never considered that. Yeah, maybe I need to learn sign language and then I could like talk
Yeah,
to people.
yeah, maybe you could like make some deaf friends.
Actually, I wouldn't mind that. But that's a whole different story. But yes, yes. So I need deaf friends, and yes, it's all on X right now because I'm pretty sure X is like my life if I'm socializing.
Yeah, you're pretty active there. You have over 2,000 followers, quite a big following.
Really? Ironically, oh, that's another thing. I think the only reason why I have a following is because of other people in my community, if I'm honest. I was really talking to myself. And then I found like a couple people, and then they started pushing my message for me. It's literally, I think, the only reason why I have more than my mother, which I think unfollowed me, by the way. So no more mother support. There's all community based, which means a lot. Yeah.
You don't need your mom's retweets anymore anyway, so
I wish I ever got one. No, I've never got a like or a comment or a retweet from her actually. She just likes to call me and talk about, my posts. Mother support.
what's her name? Let's call her
Oh,
out.
oh really? Her name is Deborah Morris. Yes, but if there's any relation, I didn't say anything, and this is not proof. This was auto-tuned or something. And this is
Hey
not her mom.
Deborah, Mrs. Morris, you need to repost. First, you need to follow, and then you need to quote and repost and comment on everything your daughter says, okay?
Oh my God, yes, I support this message. I endorse this message. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, now you'll have at least one more comment in every post you have because your mom will help you. It's not only Redham, also Deborah.
I'll take it. I like this. But for anyone listening, you notice Gabriel did not count himself as community. So I'm just
Oh
saying.
yeah, because I am antisocial, so it don't count me. I'm not even in my own community, so don't worry about that. So you said you love going to Barnes and Noble, and I think that's pretty much the best store in the US anyways. And you also said that you loved books. So how's your relationship with books been? Have you been a bookworm since you were a little kid?
Oh gosh, my relationship with books. Yes, actually. I've always loved books. I liked books more than I liked people, more than I liked dogs. I that was my life. Just books. But ironically speaking, it's almost as if our relationship kind of evolved now that I started like looking at entrepreneurship and self-help. So it's different. Before it was sci-fi, now it's business. Is it maturing? I don't know. Am I getting old and
Yeah,
lame? It's a
growing up.
mystery.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's lame. I like business books as well. So what are your favorites lately?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a tricky question, but that's only because I don't actually read full books at a time, except for one. There's one lately, but I'm of the mind of I'll have about 10 books. I'll read one chapter and then I will do what the chapter says, and that might take some weeks and then I'll like move on, but it might not be the same book. I look at books kind of like a wealth of knowledge, but for like specific problems. So like when people say, "What are your favorite books?" I'm like, "Well, do you mean a chapter in a book? I can do that. But do you mean the whole book?" That's a hard question for me. But ironically speaking, there is one book recently I did read the whole thing of and I could not put down for the first time in a while. And that is the book is called A Skill Called Luck by Jacob Greenfeld. But outside of that, the only other book I could, without going on a whole list, on chapters, it would be Thinking Slow and Fast by Daniel Kahneman. Those would
Oh
be mental
yeah,
books.
that one's a good one. Yeah.
Right? It's addictive. Yes.
Yeah, like did you start noticing when you're in the fast mode and when you're in the slow mode, like in real life, did you start noticing this when it happens?
Yes. but what was more interesting about it to me was the concept of using your own bias for your benefit. But no one really wants to talk about that, I've noticed. But what about you? Are you like, have you been noticing? Have you been making tweaks? Are you making conscious differences? Or like, what is it looking like in your life?
Lately, I'm not sure. I think a big part of this is making the subconscious conscious, like noticing things and paying attention to things. That's a big part of any transformation. Like
Right.
even when you're a bit depressed or something like that, you're having some feeling that you want to overcome, you like noticing why am I feeling this way? Like where is this coming from? Like when you start noticing like the have you ever seen that metaphor? I think it's from Tony Robbins for like the thoughts or the beliefs, and it's like a table that sits upon like legs made up of thoughts and beliefs.
Oh, I've never heard that, but I completely agree, actually.
Yeah, so if you have a belief that's positive, like you have positive, like strong references, or in terms of reference experiences or things you've read, things people told you, things you thought, so you can like try to use your bias or the things you already have in your mind and like try to build up on the things that will be good for you. So the positive things, like positive beliefs, empowering beliefs, and try to do the opposite with the limiting beliefs. I feel like I'm not good enough. And like you try to chip away at the legs of that table, and try to destroy the legs of the table. So why the hell are you not good enough? Like, because when you were in kindergarten, like someone stole your lunch or something, that doesn't make any sense? So trying to go back and figuring out why you think some things or you feel some things and like just going and trying to use things in your favor as well. Like trying to make like you said, make the like there are many things that we tend to think that are bugs in the system, but they're actually features. So you just need to learn how to use them. Like most things are a double-edged sword. You just need to learn how to use the right edge.
I like that. But I'm genuinely curious then, when you're talking about like tackling the thought, are you challenging it? Are you action based? Or are you just of the mind of thinking a better thought though? Because those are like two different sides. Which one actually works for you? I'm like genuinely curious.
I think it's a bit of both because just by thinking or trying to think differently, you're already acting in a way.
Yeah.
But it's good, maybe there are many exercises like many authors talk about meditations or journaling and things that you can do to try to do this more consciously. But just like by answering some questions about it and writing about it and thinking about it, like actively thinking but not like giving the first answer that comes to your mind and like just blurting it out, like giving yourself some time to
Yeah.
process it and like let the feeling kind of simmer and really think about it, but not necessarily purely from a mental state, not necessarily like, when you get chewy in your head, like really let it sink in a bit. It's almost like a meditation, almost as much as it is homework. And then just like writing about it, I have some exercises I can look for and maybe send you later. But yeah, just like trying to figure out why do I feel or think this way? Like maybe it's something my mom used to say, maybe it's something my teacher used to say. There are many things that we pick up and we don't question them.
Yeah.
And then we have problems down the line when we're adults. Like old people sometimes are still using the frames of mind that their parents or their grandparents gave them. And like this is what we call generational curses. So the limiting beliefs that go from generation to generation. So just like I said before, just by trying to bring some awareness and shedding light into it, you can make it much easier to let it sort of dissolves and it's on its own if you just like shine some light. It's like if your cat is under the bed and you think there's a monster, but actually it's just a little cat. So if you shine the light, you will see like the shadow self generate. Like usually.
I'm trying so hard not to ask like a whole bunch of follow-ups, but I have one more, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me though.
No, you go ahead. You can ask whatever you want.
Okay, cool. So then in terms of thoughts though, how do you decide which thoughts are yours and which thoughts were given to you from other people? And if you're making changes in your life that are more supportive of where you want to go, or we'll call it more positive, how are you getting influence? Or is that based on the challenges, or are you challenging your current thoughts? Because but I'll leave it at that because I'm genuinely curious for you.
Yeah, I mean, really, I don't think it makes much of a difference if it's yours or if it came from someone else. It's more a case of, is it good or not? Like, is it helping me or not? Is it something that's like a tailwind, or is it something that's like, how do you say when the wind is in your face?
Uh, blowing? Wind blown?
Yeah, well, like it's is it in your favor or is it against you?
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
this is more important than like, did it come from someone else or not? Where did it come from? But just by doing this act of trying to figure it out and like becoming more conscious of it, because this is something that some of those guys in self-help psychology, spirituality, everything they talk about, like many of these things are subconscious. That means we don't know where they're coming from. They're inside us. They might be sort of like energy stored somewhere in your body, for instance, but because they were feelings that you didn't know how to process at the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, since it's subconscious, it's something that you don't actively know or you don't actively feel. It's just like they're buried deep inside the closet. So you need to sort of go soul searching to like shed some light to try to bring this to the conscious. So as soon into what's causing this, then you can like bring it to the conscious, and by doing this, it's much easier to dissolve it. So it's not a problem anymore because it's not hidden anymore. Like you can own it after that. Like you can know, oh, I have this kind of situation in my life because I had a chip on my shoulder because of this, or that, you know?
Yes. Oh, I love your answer. I'm gonna need to replay that though, for myself.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe if there's any issue you wanted to solve or anything that you think is recurring in your life, maybe we could go ahead and try to do it. Like,
I wouldn't mind. It's just I'm always interested in thoughts in itself, right? And the meaning. I'm of the idea that we don't necessarily, and there's nuance, but we don't necessarily have control of our thoughts, right? And in a given day, we have what, like 40,000 plus thoughts. If we were to sit and think of every thought, we would not be functioning. We wouldn't even be going to the bathroom. We'd just be sitting, not breathing. There would be no thought. But I'm always curious in how we're kind of choosing which thoughts we believe in and give meaning to, and which ones we accept as truth, and how it manipulates our own beliefs and our own behaviors, and having the power to know the difference. Because when people talk about the concept of self-awareness, I get it. It's important, right? I mean, one woman named Tasha Eurich was talking to leaders and discovered 95% of people think that they're self-aware and only 10 to 15% actually were. And realistically, it's easy to think that you're self-aware. I mean, you live with yourself all the time, but to be so separated from what you would actually do and think and function, it's fascinating to me because I think okay, well, honestly speaking, people have always told me my whole life I am not self aware. So that might be one thing. But the journey of self awareness, I'm curious on what triggers it sometimes, and beyond just thoughts, because maybe you have a different experience, but I don't just wake up and I'm self aware about a thing. Sometimes my body reacts in a way to some kind of trigger and I'm not even consciously about it, which makes me genuine. I guess the core of my interest is, how do you become self aware? I mean, I know there's acts of journaling to kind of work on bringing it to awareness, but have you ever stopped to think about what the moment was that made you self aware so that you could actually make changes? Because sometimes what I see people preaching is, let's say the conversation of working out, work out because you can, because it's good for you. That alone is not enough. Let's be honest. At least in the US, all of us are mostly obese. This is just a reality. We know that we could be working out. We know healthy food, whatever. That's not enough. The thought and the idea. But where is it in the broken awareness that we need to be doing it for ourselves? I mean, for me, it took 4 years to learn that the reason for me not working out and being as fit as I possibly could was because of self-worth. But that in itself is a whole journey. So then what is that moment? And how can we make it more pressing? Or not more pressing, but how do we make it more rampant in our life to appear so that we can be better for ourselves? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, I think the fitness metaphor is really good because it's pretty much the same thing, really. It's not like, oh, I'm going to wake up and now I'm self-aware. Like myself, I don't consider myself like I'm super self-aware or anything. I'm like just in the beginning of this journey, to be honest. But and then it's things like the Buddhist monks, the Dalai Lama, they're like their whole life meditating and searching for self-awareness. So who are us to think that we can like, I'll meditate 5 minutes once and now I'll be self-aware? Of course, that's not gonna happen. It's like I'm going to the gym once and I'm gonna be jacked like Alex Hormozy. Of course, that's not gonna happen. But just the journey itself of trying to, and it's something that you do daily, like you
Yeah.
take a shower every day, you eat every day, you sleep every day. It's those things that you try to do a little bit every day. I think this is, I saw something funny the other day, like because today people talk a lot about mindfulness and about being present and about like paying attention to what you're doing, right? And the guy was a stand-up comedian and he was saying, man, I was raised in the 80s. Like if you took a bus, you had to just look out the window for hours and you were there. You were present. You didn't need to be mindful. But now we have cell phones and that's why we have problems and everyone's anxious because we're never doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're always distracted. Like you can't get an elevator without everyone picking their phone for 80 seconds or something. And I think that's something that definitely doesn't help in the process. And also, we are the biggest liars. We like to bullshit ourselves. Like, we are the people that most lie to ourselves. And, like, just by consciously trying to not lie to yourself and be totally transparent to yourself is the only person that really matters. I think that's a defining moment wherever you are in the scale of awareness or not. Like the moment you decide, okay, now I'll be as transparent as possible, and there are things that hurt, there are things that you don't want to admit, of course, even to yourself. But when you start being more, and I think this is also because we kind of fear criticism, we
Yeah.
tend to be a bit perfectionist because we learned that, oh, being wrong is bad, not doing everything right is bad, and no one's perfect. Everyone does things that they know they shouldn't be doing. So just by being more honest with yourself helps. And also to go more into the root of your question, I think maybe this used to be more natural and people used to learn more about this growing up and through their lives. But what you see with most people that enter this journey is that they had some kind of chip on their shoulder or they had some problem with their life and they weren't feeling well, and that's what made them look for answers, and that's what made them try to do something different and get over that hump because like they were suffering so much. Do you know The Power of Now? Do you know Eckhart Tolle?
Okay, I've heard of it, but no, I don't know that intimately.
Yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed about, really. It's just that this guy is super famous in the new age world, talking about uh, how it's good to be present in the moment and, overall, all of this mindfulness kind of thing. And talking about the separation between the mind and your being, like you're not your mind, you're something else. You're like the awareness of the mind and the body. You're like you're the observer. You're not your mind. We have this thought that we are our minds or our brains, but we are actually something a bit apart from that. Like our thoughts are not really us, you know, you're not your thoughts. They're like just something that happen naturally, like you said, thousands of times every day, and you are sort of separate from that actually. But the thing is that with this offer, he had terrible bouts of depression and I'm not sure if nihilism, but when he was in his late 20s, he was living hell on earth. And one day, when he was about to turn 30, he had like this revelation, like he dreamt that he was jumping into an abyss of light, something like that. It was something like a real transcendent experience, and he just sort of let go. And when he let go, he could finally like um live the now, like know how to like really live the moment, like notice that we only have this moment. Like the past is in the past, the future is something that's uncertain. It's really so that's when he really started on his journey, and now he's one of the most famous, most celebrated guys in that kind of field. But anyways, it started because he had a very severe bout. I wouldn't say depression, but you know, he was having some very deep problems with himself, and that's what made him like go over the hump and look for answers. Because at the end of the day, like you said, sometimes just I know I should go to the gym, but just the thought of it is not enough. Just knowing you should do something might not be enough. And many times it's more about when you have a situation that's so unbearable that you say, okay, now this is enough. Like enough is enough, and then you take action.
I have so many more questions, but also that was fascinating because now I'm wondering that concept of being aware. Because when you were talking about that, although I would like to know how he did that, how he had, was it a dream? You said it was a dream he had, and then going in a abyss of light or something like that.
Yeah, actually, we'd have to get the book, and I don't remember exactly how it was. Yeah, of course, it was like some kind of dream or some kind of hallucination that he was having, but
Okay.
yeah, it was something like that that he was going like into a rabbit hole of sorts.
I like the way you said that, I like the rabbit hole. But when you were talking about that, you actually triggered a thought in me. Have you ever done a dark retreat before? Or like familiar with the concept?
How's a dark retreat?
Okay, okay. Oh, I'm getting too excited. I think I started yelling. Okay, let me calm down. A dark retreat is pretty much removing all of your senses, right? So you're in complete darkness, there's no sound, and it's just you being with yourself, right? Kind of like in a deep void. And in it, it's kind of like when you were talking about the hallucination kind of state. Maybe I do it too much. I hide in a closet. I don't go out, I hide in a closet. I get like my noise canceling earphones and like something for my eyes so it's complete dark. And you actually have me rethinking the concept of how separated or our separation between our mind and our being, and the concept of having those kind of moments of clarity. Because in a dark retreat, it is just you, and your mind goes to all of these interesting and bizarre places. It's not like meditation, it is quite literally being with yourself and acknowledging what's going on. And there's all these extreme visuals. I won't lie, I end up crying. Oh my God. Did I mention crying already? I'm pretty sure I cry a lot, if I'm being honest. I'm so sorry. Um, but it's almost as if you're completely with one with yourself, and this like level of self-acceptance. But I didn't think about that until I had this conversation with you, and now it's like I'm gonna have to expand on this now because now I have like a whole bunch of thoughts that I haven't thought of or considered, and this concept of his moment and how we can magnify that in our own lives to have
Yeah,
like
now I
just
want to do a dark retreat as well to see how it is.
do it. I would recommend 15 minutes at first, but it's intense. Like, do you have moments with yourself where you're just alone with your mind and your emotions, and how hard it's like sometimes that can be challenging to have like no distractions, not like
It
ample amount.
can, it can. We're too caught up in distractions and looking for things to do or things to read or things to listen to, and we barely give ourselves time to just be present. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's why so many people talk about this. We're never really present. And even I was talking to this guy another day. Do you know Coach Jacob?
Yes.
So I was talking to him the other day, and he helps people with like a dopamine detox or how to like master your dopamine. And he was telling me of these guys that they're so addicted to their phone that they don't even give their wives or children any attention. And can you imagine how it's really like it can destroy relationships because we're not mindful of what we're doing. And yeah, I think it's a very pressing issue in society right now, to be honest.
But I'm more curious about why people think they even need a distraction though, right? Um, I don't think I mentioned this, or maybe I have. To me, oh, I feel like I'm stepping on Coach. Coach is awesome. I like Coach. But when people talk about the concept of phone being the distraction, I feel as if we all have distractions in our lives. They have like different forms, right? Sometimes it might be a married, and I'm not married, but just for assumption, right? We have someone who's married and their distraction is another woman, right? Or maybe your distraction is, I don't know, I'm trying to think porn. Like there's but not all of them are so insidious though, right? Like sometimes distraction is running, but people think that's healthy when someone's running literally away from a problem or from doing something that's good for them, right? There's so many different forms of distractions. What I'm curious about is the why, because at least for me, right? Because I try to do like a little investigation, right? For me, I use distractions because I feel like I'm incapable of doing something that's hard and I don't think I can get to the other side. I need a distraction because I'm actually having, what is it called? It's a type of fatigue. Brain, mind, figment. I'm gonna forget it.
Decision
I feel
fatigue, no.
no, it's like it just lost my mind. But basically it's when your energy is completely low and you actually can't think or function. So here we go with a distraction instead of doing some kind of break. Like there's reasons, and I'm more concerned about what someone else's is, right? I think I got so lost in my head, I kind of lost focus on why I'm even telling you this. But distractions in themselves, I don't think they're inherently bad. I think of why we need an escape. I should have just said that. That would have been the smoother approach.
No,
But
yeah, I think that's the heart of it. It's why, what are we escaping from? Why do we feel this need to be escaping all the time?
yeah,
Like our lives are so bad that we need to escape from them all the time. And yeah, going back to coach, that's something as well because all of these apps that we use, all of these games that we play, they're all made in a way that they're totally gamified, hacking our brains because there are really, really smart people that work with this and they know everything about neurochemistry, everything about how to like make little dopamine spikes in our brains, and they use the same methods that like a Las Vegas casino would use to make you hooked. So by doing this, of course, a video game in a sense is better than life because you're always getting those little rewards from the game because you're always getting, oh, here's a little star, here's another life, here's this, here's that, level up, level up. And in real life, there are many instances in which we don't have an immediate reward. Like, okay, you just read the chapter of the book. Is that enough of a reward in and of itself for you, or will you get the real when will you get the reward? Or I mean, if you have a Kindle, you might do like you don't have the progress bar. Every page you read, like you get more points or something. And I think we sort of got addicted to this and this cheap dopamine that they say because we get a lot of dopamine from our phones, from the overall stimulation that we get from computers, from the phones. But at the same time, dopamine is supposed to be a motivation molecule, so it's supposed to be something so I need food, so I use dopamine to go and hunt, you know. It should be used for that kind of thing. But if we're wasting dopamine and screwing up our dopamine pathways in the brain, then of course we won't feel motivated by the things we really should be doing because they are much, first they are harder, they require an effort, and then they're usually slower as well because you don't get the instant gratification. So we sort of get trapped in that the escapism helps with getting the dopamine cheaply, easily, fastly. But in the end of the day, it's like a hamster wheel that it's hard to get out of because you get really addicted.
Oh no, I completely agree. Although I would also add people though. I think people are dopamine hits too. I'm trying not to go on a tangent about how I feel about when people do motivational quotes to other people. I will leave that for a different time. But I was reading some book. I can't remember the author, but the book was called Never Get a Real Job. I think there's an introduction. He was talking about how some people are raised with parents, and not to shame parents, right? Because parents want the best for their children, but thinking they are the world, and they're being glorified for doing like the most mundane things, like, oh my God, you pottied, celebration, here we go, you're exciting, you passed a grade, or I don't know, you survived another day. Like you're just celebrating the fact that they live, which is also kind of like dopamine hits. But at least for me, right? I was actually kind of trained to, oh, I feel like this is like me trying to blame parents. It's not, because that's a whole different conversation when everyone wants to blame their parents when they're adults, grown adults.
Everyone
But
knows it's Deborah's fault.
yeah,
We've
totally.
already addressed this point before, so
Oh my gosh. The point I was just trying to make was just that I think sometimes we're set up for like dopamine hits when we're younger because people want to appreciate and love us and think that the smallest things we do are so great, right? Then that's where you get like participation awards or trophies or whatever. And then when that's translated into having like a full time job, right? Like for me personally, I kind of developed a perfectionist thing because I thought the only way for me to have my dopamine hits was if I was exceeding, although which also stems from my fear of looking like I'm incapable or a failure if I'm not perfect, right? But in the job world, there's no one saying you got a job, let's celebrate, or you're here another day. You're actually doing what you were hired for. Congratulations for doing the bare minimum. And so for me, it developed in how do I get highs? How do I keep going so that I'm looked at as I'm so, oh, so great, right? Because I need to know that I have skills for doing what I was hired for. And it's not even always technology, it's the people in my life, which is why I'm also really keenly aware of who I'm associating with. Some people love motivational quotes. That's great. That's great. It helps some people. Me, it makes me angry because and I said I'm not having a tangent. I'll have like a 10-second tangent, but for me, the concept of like the motivational quotes are they're not based on someone's specific life, and it's this temporary high of, oh, okay, I can do this, but what is that being supported from if not creating its own little addiction of needing more motivational quotes to feel like you're capable of doing something, which to me becomes a little scary, which is why like when it comes to like people I'm talking to, I maybe it's just me specifically, but I need people who say I'm failing or I'm successful based on actual tangible results. Of course, it's using outdated data to support a future, which is a whole different thing. If we read Thinking Fast and Slow, but
you gotta believe.
right, you have to believe that it's something tangible, right? Then the dopamine you have is of your own success and the ability of reaching it again. Does that make sense? Maybe I went on a tangent. I don't know. It's
No, don't
fast.
worry about tangents. They're the best. But yeah, I totally agree with you that there's this divide in society that makes people have their dopamine pathways totally fucked up. Because yeah, like you said with the job metaphor, sometimes you're doing the bare minimum and you expect someone to give you a pat on the back, like, oh, congratulations, you went to that meeting and you didn't fuck it up. You're awesome. Like, okay, you're getting paid for that.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. You're having me thinking. I won't lie. I need to record it though. I need to go back to a whole bunch of different things you said though.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hope that everyone watching is also thinking and rethinking how their parents and their teachers destroy them. No, just kidding. We don't want victim mentality. They might have destroyed you, but now it's time to pick yourself up and rebuild.
Oh my God.
So, how did you come up with the idea for the 6 a.m. headspace?
Oh. Oh crap. I haven't even thought about. Wait, how'd you find that podcast? You found both podcasts? Wait. How did you
Is
find
that,
both of them?
isn't it a newsletter? I thought it was a newsletter,
Oh,
not a
yes, it
podcast.
is. It is a newsletter. Yup, it is a newsletter, not a podcast. Don't Google that. 6 a.m. Headspace. Honestly, I chose 6 a.m. because to me, like the concept of like waking up, I want people to start with some kind of oh, but my newsletter's been really depressing. So maybe don't start with 6 a.m. Headspace. Don't start the day with my newsletter. But I want people to like the way that you wake up and the kind of thoughts you have like a huge impact in how you lead your day. And so I wanted 6 a.m. because I wanted to meet people when they're first starting to get up and they're on their laptop and they're starting their day so that they have a thought or a question that they can kind of my goal is to think about throughout the day and maybe the week so that they could be more consciously aware of what they're doing. And I only did Headspace because I think my tagline might say, business is social, but I also think that business is mental and it starts with how you think about a problem, not about how you start picking up a random habit and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. In order for it to work, you have to be of the mind that you're capable. Just like if you think about any coach that you've worked at, they don't start with, here's your regiment, you got this, let me support you. They listen to you about what are your problems? Why do you think you're incapable? And listening to what it looks like so that they can kind of learn how to speak to you and to create your own regiment based on those thoughts so that you see ability and kind of change the way that you're thinking. But I think that applies to anything, including books, how like every section starts with their own experiences. But I'm trying not to go on a tangent there. But I think everything is mental first, but not mental alone, because I think it's too easy for people to get into the concept of if I think better thoughts, my life will be better and everything will be magical while they're sitting on their ass doing nothing. It's a component, it's a catalyst, but you need the action in order to prove it correct. But I want to reach them at the very beginning in their mental space. And then I realized there's an app called Headspace, which I didn't know at the time, which is a really nice app. I
Oh
also
yeah, it's a meditation app to help you with your mindfulness. So maybe after you get a bit depressed with 6 a.m. Headspace, you can go to the real Headspace and recover.
yeah, of course. But ironically speaking, though, I won't lie. Yes, my newsletter is actually really depressive if it's late, but I actually like that it is, though. I know that's like a really weird thing to say out loud to like that something is sad and miserable and people want to be happy and inspired. Um, but like I think I want to also like give like awareness of like struggles because another thing I've noticed with like lots of podcasts that I'm listening to and like in general is they talk to like founders after they've already reached the other side of like a problem. Like when you want to start something and you're optimistic and things are going to be great and then they like skip a little they talk a little bit about the sadness and then skip to the part where everything works out and everything's beautiful, but I still have problems because I'm human, which is a real thing. But I want to like meet people where I am now as well, right? So we're together and like the middle ground where things aren't always so beautiful. Some things really freaking suck. Um, at least so that it's like an awareness place, because I don't want to teach anyone about entrepreneurship. I'm not there yet. I can't teach you anything really. I can just try to be like the kind of person who understands like what the woes and the struggle parts of trying to start something look like so that you don't feel so crazy as being like the only one who actually has problems, which I wish more people talked about.
So you think that the 6 a.m. Headspace and Solopreneur Sanity are sort of like you journaling and showing people the path from where you were when you started until when you get to the success that you want to get to, and so they can see that, look, this is where I was and is where I got, and all of the things in between are the path that I took.
Ah, yes, I like that. Yep, let's go with that. That is definitely what I was doing.
Or were you doing it like whimsically, like you didn't really know?
It's like in between. So first, I still can't believe you found my podcast. I'm still stuck on that. It's supposed to be in the middle of nowhere for no one to ever discover. So that's still getting me. But originally speaking, with the newsletter itself, I only really started that because one of the things anyone's ever told me is I'm good at least helping mental space, although I work better one on one when I'm not talking about my own problems. But I really just wanted to kind of create like an outlet for somebody else. It's really what that was supposed to be. So it's not like so shimmery happy or even actionable, but I have like a love hate relationship with action based and templates and kind of like but that's a whole different conversation. um and the podcast itself, it was actually because maybe September I made mention that I was actually going to start a podcast. I started actually talking about it on Reddit because I was like, let's ask anonymous people on entrepreneur subreddits about podcasts and if this is something someone's interested in. And I got yeses, and it was actually weird, but also like having the idea of, oh wow, do I not feel comfortable enough to post this as myself and ask people who actually know me? And then I actually recorded episodes, interviews. I have about 10, 11 episodes that have never been published.
Why not?
Um, for me, I think it was also like a mental thing, which is why I'm also so like I think it's rad that you're having interviews and like posting it and like helping people. But like for me, I guess this goes back to like I might have a lot of issues. It's a mental component of thinking that when I'm speaking, I don't say anything really, or I don't have value. And like the fact that people like spending their time to actually talk to me to help other people is like still stuck in my head of like value. And I think I actually got to the point of posting them, but one of my recordings disappeared. I wanted to start an episode specifically with a friend of mine who is in Israel right now, and he's a father and he's building his business right now. And the way that where he is in the terrain is and the special care he has to be have for his like his kids and for his wife and still trying to like build his own business and coach people. I wanted that to be like the basis of the relation of my podcast, and then that recording didn't exist, and I think I kind of broke a little. Um, to like twofold, like for me, it was like, oh my God, here's this guy spending time with me and has a story to tell, and it's interesting and helpful for someone, and I don't have it, like it disappeared. And the other half of it was just how careless I am to have.
Ah, come on.
I know I'm being too hard on myself, but like this was like my own like turmoil and why I think like again the mental piece is so important. Why I'm kind of trying to fix myself. Wow, this is a long answer to your question about why I have my podcast. But after not doing that and feeling like me talking about it on a social platform, which I'm not even sure if anyone saw, it became a trust thing of like follow through of saying what you're going to do with someone and actually doing what you say. Because like my biggest thing is being like a liar and not following through. And so I also struggled with another part, but I'm trying not to go too much on a monologue. But the reason I have this podcast now is because I wanted to actually follow through on my idea, but also oops, sorry. I don't know why my phone's going off. I also wanted to prove to myself that I can actually do it. Although the editing of these episodes, I don't know how you do it and post it. If I'm honest, because now I'm trying to edit it, and it's like, okay, I'll come to you again at some point soon.
Yeah, editing is such a time sink that I just put the raw thing now. In the beginning, I did edit, and like the first few episodes, I was like cutting a bunch of stuff and trying to make me sound better than I really like when I'm speaking. Sometimes you have those pauses and that kind of thing, or you miss some words, and I'd cut those things, and it was such a time sink that I wasn't able to record as many episodes as I'd want. So I decided, you know what? Just let it be and let's kind of wing it, and that's it.
I feel like okay, just let it go. Oh,
Yeah, like letting it go is so powerful. And it's so easy. Like the first time you do it, it's harder, of course, but when you start letting things go, because I used to be also, I wouldn't say a perfectionist, but yeah, like having this very high, like the standard that you want to get to, and sometimes you either don't have time or like it's not feasible to be perfect all the time with everything, right? So when you start letting go a little bit and you know it's not going to be perfect, but since you're such um, a nerd, like you're always trying to outperform everyone, like your 7 out of 10, it will be someone else's 10 out of 10. So just put out a 6 or 7 or 8 and you're good to go because or unless you do that, you will waste so much time by overthinking and not doing things and over editing. And it's better to have 10, like 6 or 7 videos than have one 10 out of 10, you know?
and that's if it's even a 10 out of 10, right? Because you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And it really won't be a 10 out of 10 because probably what you think is a 7 when you get to the 10th video will be like a 15 if it was the first one. So you just need to put in the reps, and these things are really about doing it more and more. And there will be days in which you won't be as good. Like, it's like also we end up going to the gym metaphor a lot, but also when you're trying to exercise, there will be days you didn't sleep that well or you didn't eat that well, and your workout will be not as good as you wish it was, but it's better to do a shitty workout than to do no workout at all. And the same thing with putting out the work, and you can always edit later if or delete it later if you get too over like if you think it's too bad, but usually you won't feel that and your feedback will be mostly positive anyway, so I don't think you should worry that much. And yeah, just post it. I know you wanted to post the one, and that's a bit sad that you lost it, but just post another one and get the ball rolling. Maybe you'll find it later, or maybe you can record with him later again and just do it.
Where have you been, like, my life? Like, I need you more often. Did that make sense? I mean,
Yeah, I'm the hero that Gotham deserves.
wait, isn't that what the Joker said? Isn't that a Joker line?
Was it the Joker that said this?
I thought it was.
Or
Maybe
was it the policeman guy that I forgot the name?
yes, that he ends up being the bad guy, Two-Face.
No, I think the old guy with the mustache.
Oh, not the one who went south?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
see
no, you're
if it was
right. He
him.
did. You're right. It is the good cop. It's a good cop. When Batman was running away, he's the one they yeah. Okay. Don't worry, you're not a villain.
I
Right?
mean,
Oh, in someone else's story, maybe. You're a bad guy.
yeah, I'm trying to find out who said it, really.
No, you're right. It was the captain because it was when it was like Two-Face and Batman, and they were making Two-Face like the good guy, and then Batman was the bad guy and was running. It was in his little what are they called? English
The
is my only
Batmobile?
language. I think he was on his bike and he was running away and the
Uh,
cops were chasing him. And it was basically like the conversation about he has to be who he needs to be for the people so that they don't like skew the image of this good guy that ended up being the bad guy, Two-Face, at the end. And it was like, oh, justice, good guy. Yeah, that is how I do it. Storylines, sound effects.
yeah, you're good with it.
Yes.
Like, really, yeah, that Batman trilogy was awesome. I kind of miss those days when superhero movies weren't so watered down because they have 10 every year.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. If you go to the movies, there's always something by Marvel, and they have it like every month.
No clue. I am literally like the worst person to do like pop culture and things. I had no idea. I need to watch more movies so I can be more hip. I'm down with it.
Yeah, maybe not watching them is the hip thing to do nowadays anyway, so don't worry about that.
Although I'm honest, if I'm honest though, I'm just happy we're not talking about like car accidents. I like Marvel movies. And I like Elkhart? Elkin. It's Elkin, right? Elkin storylines a lot better.
No, I'm glad that you
Happier.
reminded me of this because I never heard of someone getting two back-to-back accidents.
Oh
How
yeah.
was that? When was it? And like, really, this, of course, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to, but I think that's an interesting story that can be motivating for some people as well.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about anything. You can ask me anything. I'll answer you. The first accident, like in a big city, there's like multiple lanes going one direction, right? That's a normal thing, right? It was a red light, cement truck in front of us. I'm in the passenger seat, and it turns green. Instead of going forward like a normal car, this cement truck was going backwards because Chick-fil-A got his order wrong, didn't feel the car behind him, and then just kept hitting us. Next thing I know, like my head's hitting like the board, and I'm having issues. So then, literally 2 days after I healed, I had another car accident. I'm the passenger again. I just healed. Car runs a red light. It slams into the passenger side, into me, and knocks us all the way across like a couple lanes and into a fire hydrant. Next thing I know, I'm like in, and then I'm out, and now I'm still healing 2 years later. Like she sped up on the light. Maybe I'm just like a dangerous person not to have in a car as a passenger unless you're looking for a car accident. Otherwise, maybe don't me.
Or maybe you just had bad luck and got some terrible Ubers.
Oh, it'd be better for Uber. I think they'd at least get like, but yeah, like for me, it was just, it's the recovery that really sucked. Because I think there's like I got a TBI. Everyone gets TBIs a little bit differently and how long they last. Like if you Google it, I think at most they're only supposed to last maybe like a few months, maybe six. I'm just past like 2 years. And so like for me, it's noise. It's I can't think, I can't function, I can't bend, I can't even like lift something more than like 5 pounds. And for me, I think it was like really easy for me to look at those things and think that like I'm incapable. Like for me, one of the other ones is I can only look at a screen for like a few hours a day. And by a few, I mean three, and it's not dependent on myself. So I think I actually got like the victim mentality of, woe is me, I can't do anything, I'm so broken. Yes, in that voice, because that's how I feel now that I'm thinking back to how I was before. But I think also it's kind of like my saving grace because I kind of spent all day in front of a computer, like, I gotta do this. Something's going to work. We can do this. Well, even when I was at my job. And for me, weirdly enough, it's also an advantage where it like forces me to like focus on what's important. And like be better with myself. But also I think the struggle is kind of the fact that I'm not like in complete control of like my body and like what I'm capable of doing, which is like a lesson on like being patient with yourself that I am still kind of learning. But we'll get there. We'll get there one day soon on how to do that because I'm used to like pushing myself. So it's like kind of forcing myself to do like a whole bunch of like internal work, and still seeing that there's like ability, right? Because on the second accident, ironically speaking, like what the police are like, most people don't make it out of accidents like that. So like for me, it was like I got off with just like some head issues when I could have been dead, or I could have like been decapitated, so or something like something could have went wrong because I'm right-handed, so it would have been my dominant side, and things could have like been a lot worse than they are. So like they're blessings in itself as well. So it's like I don't know, it's like a complicated mix of things, but
So you're really hard-headed.
yes, I am. You know what? Maybe that's like my benefit. That's like my advantage. I'm a hard-headed person, literally, and maybe figuratively too.
Yeah, and you're literally a survivor, and like you said, there are people that wouldn't last a month, and it's been 2 years, and you're going strong, and that's in and of itself, I think that's a great achievement, really. You should be glad, or at least a bit proud, really, of this. Like, this is very badass.
Trying. Thank you. I just need a lot of like encouragement from like my doctors. Because I won't lie, to be honest, it feels good, but I think also like there's a lot of like bad days. I want not to make it like a Debbie Downer, but like realistically speaking, I think the only reason why like I'm not like grabbing like some random job and it's like, yeah, I'm not completely capable sometimes, but the job I'm going for, they're aware of, and then I'm having something I'm capable of doing where I have like flexibility and I have like a community of people who like help me, especially like, on the bad days, and it also helps with like schedule. So it's like I guess like building an environment that's like really conducive for like my well-being. Um, but I'll take the goodness. You're right. It is badass with the support of like my whole tribe and people around me.
Yeah, but everyone needs
Yeah.
support, so that's another thing to be grateful for. Then you have a good community around you.
Yeah. I looked out. I looked out. Took a while.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
And what about helping creators building online connections without feeling gross? Like, I love the wording in this.
What about it specifically? I don't want to unless you want me to go
Like
tangent.
the feeling gross part. Like, how did
Oh,
you come up with this? And
yeah, of course. Well, for me, when I was like first introduced to the concept of networking, like I don't know about you, but when I first think of networking, it's not a happy feeling. I think of like used car salesmen trying to steal something from me. It's like, what do
yeah,
you want,
totally.
right? So when I started first time going to like networking events or like marketing events or any kind of event that was like business related, it was always kind of transactional, right? It's like, let me be just nice enough to you so that you don't hate me and I can think of all the ways that I'm going to use and abuse this relationship. But let me tweak my personality first, not to be myself, but to be what I think you need me to be. And let me do some research so I can attach myself to your hobbies and your interests, even though I couldn't care less about it, right? It's almost as if you're kind of sacrificing who you are as a person, right? It's to me that becomes a morality problem, but I think it's what people think they need to be in order to even have like any kind of connections with people, right? And for me, because I've done it, I'm not immune. But whenever I tried to like start a connection with anyone, right? So for me, it's predominantly online. I thought that I had to, lead with, "I'm so accomplished. Here's things that I've done. I'm so great. Now let's be friends where you can be in awe and I can give you like task lists of how you're going to help me reach all of my goals." Like to me, that was yucky. It felt like I was using people, but also it felt like I had to be like an unrealistic version of myself. And like the concept of that, it just didn't sit right to me. And like for me, ironically, I realized whenever I made any kind of connection in my life, it didn't matter who or for what, was when I stopped trying to be this person I think I needed to be. It's like, for instance, oh, I don't know why I'm too excited for this, but one of my biggest mentors ever, her name is Sophia Amorosa. I love her to death. She's like nasty girl if you don't know who she is, and if you don't know who she is, I'm still silently judging you, but like internally, not verbally.
I'll need to
Um,
find out.
right? Um, I mention her only because I still struggle a lot with like the concept of being myself online. I'm out into trying into her too, but the biggest issue there for me was also when I first got online and trying to do like a personal brand. I thought that, you listen to like big businesses and or like big accounts, and even if you don't like them, you like their audience, and so it's like, let's communicate, like, and then let me be more like you, and then I'll wait till I have a following to be myself, but in the interim, let's be you and this person and like create like this Frankenstein identity that's not even real. And like this is how we network and we grow and we build all these connections on this fake identity. And so that's what I was doing. And I won't go right now into like how I changed that, but when I stopped and I started just like posting a couple of things, and it's not even like educational. Right now, I think I'm just testing how to be like myself online so that I attract people who have like my kind of personality. I started getting people I genuinely liked and that connected like with my identity. And for me, one of the aha moments was when I had Sophia Morosa who followed me. And I was like, oh my God, she's like one of my mentors. But for me, it wasn't even the fact that it's like, here's this big person that people like. For me, it was like the concept of me being uh, do you know the phrase people don't listen to people like me? Have you heard that before?
Hmm.
I feel that every single day. And I don't think that's something that ever disappears. But for me, it was like the concept that being online specifically, you're open to the world, all kinds of people in all kind of areas. but that the fact that me being myself and talking in things that actually make me excited or sharing my personality can reach out to people I think are like eons, not think, that are huge, like eons beyond me, but to still have like connection point by being yourself, and not having to like put on this facade or this mask in order to kind of create like these kind of connections. This is not networking, by the way. Follow to me is not networking, but the like the beginning of what can be a connection means the world to me, because it kind of solidified the fact that you don't have to have like these lists of accolades or follow what people think you need in order to be successful, right? Because when I talk about the concept of people don't listen to people like me, most people think of advantages, and I'll keep this short, but it's interesting because I'll like have conversations about people about why they think people don't listen to them. And so some of it is like socioeconomical standings. Sometimes it's gender, sometimes it's race, sometimes it's, I didn't go to college. Maybe I don't have, the kind of training that I need, or maybe I'm not as smart as A, B, C, D, D. And it's like all these disqualifiers. And to know that that's not what actually starts a connection. You don't start with any of these things. It's just being yourself and finding having, I guess, what's the best way to put it? A mutual like interest in where you're thinking, or like belief system that actually connects with another person. And that's what actually creates those relationships, and like trying to help people break that up. That sounds like a long thing to say, like being gross, but it's just like the concept that genuinely speaking, without having like a conversation about authenticity, but to know that when you are yourself, when you get rid of like all those things you think you need to be, that you actually find the people, you attract the people you like, and who knows who actually open, what kind of opportunities open because of it, leading with self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about this way because it seems like you were facing some times that you were having a limiting belief that you weren't good enough for that person. For instance, like, why should they follow me, or why should they talk to me, or like what I have to say, and not feeling good enough. And I know how the feeling is. I've had it
Yeah.
as well. And you're like, yeah, but why should so and so follow me? Like, he's so accomplished, she's so successful, and you get that feeling, sort of an imposter syndrome or something like that. And on the other hand, this girl told me one thing one of these days, and it was very interesting as well. And she said, people are people. So they're normal people anyways. They want to make friends with cool people, and who are you to say that you aren't good enough for them? Like, let them be the judge then, not you. And many times we do this to ourselves. We judge opportunities, or we judge people before we even try. And like with the job interview that you said you applied to, and you didn't even think you were like qualified for the job, and you're probably gonna get it. So we need to stop limiting ourselves and let the world do the dirty work and close the door in our face if it needs to, but let's not do the dirty work for the world, okay?
I love that. But no, I completely agree with that. And I also think it's interesting because I don't think it's something that ever like truly disappears, Because like I still have the same thing even with like my newsletter. Like I'm trying to help like beginners, but I haven't done anything, right? It's like I don't even have like the dollar that people talk about to show like status or like ability. But I think it's also interesting because you're right, people qualify whether or not they want to speak to you too. But on the other side also, lots of people won't respond. That's like another thing about like online networking, is some people just won't respond, and people take that personally, right? But like considering not podcasts, like newsletters, right? Or who you're following, right? It's not based on like the specific person. It could just be that your personalities don't match. It just didn't work. Maybe they're busy. Like it could, but no. Sometimes it might just be you. They don't like you. But that's the thing. Not everyone's gonna love you. Ironically speaking, oh my God, what's his name? Todd. Oh my God, he has a book called Alter Ego. I forget what his last name is, but he actually had a post about that. It was talking about the emphasis, or the basically it was just saying not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone liked Jesus. Not everyone liked Elvis Presley. Like there's no Buddha. Like not everyone loves everybody. That's not a thing. But to like take that with stride and know it's not, I say a little bit, but it's not always about you. It's about them being in a specific place and thinking that that's going to be a good match. But that's like a whole other conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely is. And many times, like the person doesn't respond to your DM, but maybe they have thousands upon thousands of followers and they got so many DMs that they can't possibly respond to all of them. And it's kind of maybe it's a bit of luck that they saw it and they read it and they had time and they responded to it. So you kind of get into a situation that's depends a bit on luck or like like you said, worth in being responded to by those people, it's not a big deal, really. Like just having the courage to go out and cold DM someone, it's not easy, man. Like
No.
especially in the beginning. In the beginning, you are like, "Oh, everyone's a master of everything and I'm terrible. I don't know anything that I have no idea what I'm doing." And it's true, but at the same time, even the big guys don't know what they're doing at times. They're figuring it out. And I think one of the key things to do is to be open to figure things out and to make mistakes because, like we said before as well, like if you don't do a bunch of things and commit a bunch of mistakes, you'll never learn, so you'll never get any good. So also with the newsletter thing, I think you're not doing yourself justice because at the same time that for you it might not be a big thing because you're the one who did it, so you know how much work it took, but you also know like if I did it by default, that means that it's something that I can do. So it's something that's like now it's in your comfort zone, sort of. Like to write a newsletter or to put out an episode of the Solopreneur Sanity, it's sort of in your comfort zone. Even if you might feel a bit uncomfortable at times, it's something that you know how to do. But for someone who has never recorded an episode of anything, go on to Spotify for podcasters or to Beehive or ConvertKit or Substack or whatever it is, they'll think, wow, that's awesome. She has a newsletter, she has a podcast. And for you, it might not seem like something big, but I promise you, even the big guys, like the people who are like New York Times bestsellers, they might think, oh, yeah, that's cool, but it's just a book. Why do people like my book so much? I promise you, there are people that are super successful that have millions and millions of dollars and they still think this way because it's something that comes from within. Like
Yeah.
that's why it's self-worth, self-value. It's something that needs to come from the self. It doesn't come from outside. And because if you do let it come from the outside as well, okay, when you're winning, you will feel good, you might like the accolades, but if you start losing, if you have a slump, if you have bad times, then where will your worth come from if you're used to having it come from outside all the time?
Love that. But ironically, you made me think of something. This is a slightly embarrassing thing. In terms of DMs, because I think this might be interesting about cold DMs, especially when you're starting. Yes, some people might answer, but I also think it's also important on how you do it. When I first started doing cold DMs, oh, this is embarrassing. Do you know who Justin Welsh is by chance?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was one of the first people I ever cold DM. I got blocked, but there's a good reason. I needed to get blocked. I was like listening to some podcasts. I was like, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. And I was like, this is the cringiest, and I promise it's the only time I've done a cringe DM like this. I said something along the lines of he posted something about, make sure you're delivering content people want to read. And I was like, okay. So I DM'd him. I was like, you know what? One day I'm gonna write something and you're gonna like it. You'll listen. I like the way it was written. It was like the creepiest thing, especially so it depends on who's coming from, like familiarity. Like, do you actually know the person that you're talking to? Because like if I ever see them, like, are they like forcing me? Are you like one of those lurkers? Like, do you have my picture on a wall? Like, are you trying to, like it gets real weird. And I didn't think about that at the beginning of doing cold DMs. Like some people talk about like copy paste ones, but then you have like the ones where you pretend like you act like you know the person. I ended up getting blocked, and I'm like, and I was like, what happened? I was like confident, and I read it again, and I was like, oh my God, this is scary people time. And then it happened again with oh my God, why is his name out of my head? The author of I might get it backwards. It's Entrepreneur Minimalist or Minimalist Entrepreneur. Maybe you know that book. He's the founder. He founded Gumroad.
Oh, no, the guy. Yeah.
So here's another bad one. See, like it also matters how you're DMing people because I think big accounts still read their own DMs. I ended up in a 15-minute conversation with him where he was explaining to me how to compliment someone because I read his book and I give backhanded compliments. My compliments aren't like, this was great, this is awesome. My compliments are, I'm so mad at you. This book was so good. Blah, 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 blah. Again, familiarity. People don't know you. You have to be you have to be conscious of this when you're talking to people. And he's like, look, you cannot make compliments like this. This is bad, and here it is. But what I did also forgot is you also have to be aware of who you're talking to. If you read his content, if you read his content isn't usually like a comedian who's always telling like all these big jokes. When I read his stuff, it's very much, you know, this is what happened and this was the cause. Like this is, you know, matter of fact. And maybe he's like more personal with people he knows, which makes sense. But again, you got to know who you're talking to also with DMs, right? So it's not always just like they won't respond if they don't like you. Also, how are you showing up? How are you presenting yourself? Like, even if you're being yourself, there's a different way you respond to someone you know versus someone you don't know when you're doing a cold DM, which is also very important. And I'm hoping my big guy, sad, really uncomfortable stories help someone when they're trying to do these personal DMs because you got to know who you're talking to. Because another one, I won't go too much on the tangent here, but I think his name is Dakota. He's like the big copywriting guy. He made
Yeah,
comment
Dakota
on,
Robertson or something like that.
yes, yes. So Dakota Robinson's and we'll say JK Molina, right? Dakota made mention once on his face that he likes when you send DMs that are audios because it's more personal, right? This is where I think you need to do your research on people too. JK made a point in another space or a comment. He said, I will never respond to an audio. Two different personality types and needing to know who you're talking to. Because if you don't, you might end up sending, and I'm only using these examples because I'm guessing these are people everyone knows if they're like on X, right? You gotta know who you're talking to. Because if you send an audio to JK and you think you're gonna have like a conversation, it's like, did you do your research into the person? Do you know who you're speaking to versus the other? And then lastly, like also is when you're having the conversation of whether or not like big people will respond. My last full-time gig was I was helping a Fortune 5000 CEO, right? Fearless, name's Dalali Darasa. Sorry, I want to make sure I got it right. And he got a DM once. This DM was like a freaking book, and it was on Twitter. This book, it was so long. It was so long. I couldn't even read like two sentences. I was like, I'm not looking at this, right? Like this is a book. Don't have time for this. This guy has 3 different businesses that he's running on top of being a father and being a husband and actually having a real life outside and having to balance it. And this is where I thought it was crazy. He actually read that DM. It was a college student that was messaging him about wanting to come in and have like a conversation with him to find out like how he can have like a mentor of some sort. Mind you, this guy has no time, right? He not only read this, but he was pressing his EA or his assistant or whatever to set up a meeting to make sure it's on the books to talk to this kid. Because what was interesting about like yeah, right? He read the whole freaking thing. I don't know how. I don't have the attention span. But what he noticed when reading it was this guy that was reaching out to him actually knew who he was and took the time to do his research into the individual, which I'm realizing is not a big thing. People aren't doing research on the people they're trying to talk to. Because I've seen lots of his messages where people just doing copy paste things or like vanilla, just doesn't show any personality. And then I asked him, I think I said it in a nicer way than this, but it's like, why are you taking this meeting with this college student when your calendar is like completely blocked and you have no time to do anything? Like, I'm baffled. But the fact was, he wants one of his mission, like I'm guessing like every CEO, when you think about his business, his mission was trying to help people kind of get their own success. Like he wants to invest in like community. And so he was like fulfilling his mission and wanting to help this individual. And I'm guessing maybe this college student actually paid attention and knew, and they were able to have that connection point. So like another part of it really is having like knowing who you're talking to so that you don't get blocked or end up in like a conversation about how to give compliments. It's to know who you're talking to and like positioning yourself in a way where it's actually an opportunity. I don't think you always have to come into like the DM saying, here's me, kind of, what is the phrase? I only speak English and it's like I can't do American phrases. Sucking up to another person about how great they are, and you don't always have to go with and not never doing an not always doing ask, but you can just be a human being with an actual thought and opinion and connect with people as well. Which is also mind-boggling, as long as you don't come out like a crazy person like I have a lot of times in the early days, but I've recovered. There's not a lot of crazy GMs coming out of me. Not a lot, maybe a couple here and there.
Once in a while, like, yeah, I
Yeah.
love it that your boss took a meeting with a college student. And so, as you say, like those big guys, if you take the time to really research and say something thoughtful, you got a chance, you got a striking chance to get a meeting with them then.
Actually, yeah. I actually almost I shouldn't fold back. Are you familiar with W Hotel by chance?
I think you've told the story already.
Have I? I never know what I say and I don't say, if I'm honest.
Yeah, probably in some spaces or something, or in another call with the Avengers. And I think you told the story that you pitched them an idea, right?
Yes. Oh my God. How do you remember all of this? I'm like very flattered, but also it's like weird. Where do you keep this
Oh
information?
yeah, I don't know as well. Like I remember so many things that I don't know. Sometimes I know something, but I don't know how or why or when. It's just like, trust me, it's this. And then the person goes and yeah, it's that. But I don't know how or why or when I got that information.
But it feels good. I won't lie. All right, then I'll shoot with a different one. Because I wanted to give like just like an example because we were talking about doing like your research. I also think like sometimes people
Oh
spend like
no, but please go ahead. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but please tell the story because the people listening, they or watching, they don't know the story as well.
oh, okay. I think the other was better. But I'll go with this one. Okay. I was only mentioning W Hotel because at the time, I think I was like 19-ish, 19, 20. I never really held a job. I didn't know anything whatsoever. But at the time, I was learning about like people who reach out to hotels in order to get like free stay. And I'm like, I like traveling. I like hotels. Let me see if I can do a hotel. And so they were doing like guides that talk about all of the restaurants and activities around it for like the guests. At the time, I didn't really know how big W Hotel was. I think they reached what 13 billion in valuation as of like last year, like 20 no 2 years, 2022, I believe. And I just went to their blog. I'm like, can I find a hole that they're not talking about? And I found that they didn't actually have like any content for like solo travelers. And I'm like, maybe this is an opportunity. And I'm still looking for this freaking email. This is where you need to keep track of all your stuff. I think it's so interesting. But all I said is, you don't have any content speaking to this specific audience. I think I can help you with an opportunity where you can kind of create like a social presence around one specific person, doing like all these travels and going to like all these restaurants and place and have like just an Instagram on it to show how awesome it is and then how awesome the hotel is. And next thing I know, I actually ended up sending it to the wrong guy. But he forwarded it to I think like their marketing lead. And this was like in December, and I got an email saying, we would like you to come in and to pitch, but the only thing is we have to wait until January when we have the budget in order to invest into something like this. And like for me, I was like, oh, like 19-year-old me with zero experience doing anything, just reaching out with an AOL email, complete stranger, and getting the meeting. I mean, I didn't take it. I ended up going to Poland. See, this is me. I'm all over the place. But like to know that you have like these opportunities, because like it's insane. I think people are scared to reach out, but I'm wondering of the people that are reaching out to these big accounts, like because I don't have the numbers, right? How many of them actually want to help the other person? How many are actually coming with solutions? How many of these are like just copy paste or, give me your money or can you invest in me kind of pitches? Because at least for what I've seen and from other people I know, that's a really small number of people actually come in with like value or something helpful or any kind of value at all. And I think people miss that opportunity. I think there's a book. Oh my gosh, I'm going on tangents. This is like my happy place. I won't go too far, and for some reason I'm forgetting the title, but of course I'm gonna remember as soon as we're done here. But this guy won like this meeting to be with his mentor, and he was part of like some organization. They just had to do like a little project, and he got it and he was surprised. I think it was like the beginning of his career. Is it How to Sell or the Benefits? Doesn't matter the title right now, but he actually went to the mentor, was asking, of all the people who could have gotten this, I can't believe that I did. How did I win? And his mentor said something along the lines of people put me on a pedestal and think that I'm like untouchable or that no one can talk to me. And then they get scared of even trying when realizing that the amount of people who are actually putting in the effort are really small to begin with. And if they only tried, they would have won because he was like one of like six people, I think it was. And only the six of them that won were the only people who did the assignment. And I think there was like 10,000 plus people who could have had the opportunity, but they were so scared of the person they were talking about and thinking that they won't win because they're not good enough. They lost on an opportunity when there was only six other people in the running to begin with, which is insane.
It is. And yeah, like you said, we tend to be a bit intimidated by these people or big opportunities. And at the end of the day, it's an asymmetric return for your investment. So it's something it's not that hard to try, but if you do get it, it's such a great opportunity, such a great experience that you may get. And sometimes we don't even try and we close the door in our own faces.
Right?
And yeah, it's baffling. I think it might have to do with how we're brought up and the school system that it totally penalizes you for any failure. And to be honest, nowadays I don't even consider those things a failure anymore because you need to fail to learn. And what are you teaching kids if you tell them that every mistake is a failure and that they should feel like a failure or like if they're a
And
bad person because they didn't ace a test? Like that's ridiculous because the real world has nothing to do with that. It's about trying it, trying hundreds, thousands of times until you get it good enough. But we teach kids the other way around, and that's baffling as well. But I really liked about the W Hotel story that it's not that you were given an opportunity or that there was an opportunity for the taking. You created it, actually. There
oh yeah,
wasn't, oh yeah, we have like this campaign, this promotion for the hotel, and you enter the competition. There wasn't anything there. Like you just went ahead and knocked on the door, and proverbially, of course, because you were cold emailing, right? But you tried, and it wasn't there before you tried. And that window of opportunity might have closed after you didn't get it because you went to Poland. But how many things that we could do or that are possible that we're not letting ourselves try and see what happens? And that's awesome to think about. Like how
yes.
many things we could do and really, by having this conversation, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, what big creators should I be doing what the college guy did to, like, there are many guys that I do have a lot of information already, and I could just think about it and write something and send them, and what could go wrong? Like, the worst thing that can happen is to get ghosted or blocked, and so what, right?
I feel like that's like celebratory too, right? Like when you're talking about like the idea of like failure and it being bad, it's like, why can't we celebrate that, right? Like for instance, when someone fails, like what is our gut? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's okay. It's gonna get better. But what if we changed it to a conversation like, yes, you failed. Let's have like a mini party. Like, oh crap, here's another dopamine hit, right? from earlier. But like really, it's like, okay, yeah, I failed. This is great. Let's do it again, right? Because then it changes like the idea of like failing is something so tragic as, oh my God, I actually made an attempt. Maybe this is successful. You know what I mean? Like there's actually a story about that. There I feel like I need to have like all these names. It's like I'm forgetting. But the fact of the matter is this little girl or this girl was raised with her father celebrating her rejections to a point when she was actually an adult. She loved rejections because it just meant that maybe she did something, she just had to change the way she's communicating, or maybe she didn't use the right word for like persuasion, or maybe it just wasn't a good opportunity, but it didn't slow her down. Just like there's a TED talk on that, but it's like saying no. This guy went on a challenge. I think it was like 100 days of no's, how like no's helped. And he was asking the most bizarre things and kept getting opportunities. But it's like, how do we have that conversation of failure being something that's actually excitable rather than it being something detrimental?
Yeah, I've seen that thing of getting 100 days of failure, like going to Starbucks and asking for free coffee or things like that. That we tend to put in our minds that, oh, this is obnoxious. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can ask for extra whatever it is, like for an extra muffin at Starbucks. But why not? Like, why can't you say some things, or why can't you do some things or ask for some things? And we often, and that goes back to childhood again, I think that like you couldn't do anything at school without asking for permission. Like, I want to go to the bathroom. I have to raise my hand. I have to wait, let me go. And you're there suffering because you need to pee so much, but you can't go to the bathroom. And I think those conditionings make us put limits in ourselves that are way below the real limits that would be there. And of course, there are people that are the total opposite because they never got limits. So they're totally obnoxious. They don't give a fuck. They ask whatever they want and they don't care. They're egotistical. But for people that are on the other side of the spectrum, that don't want to be a nuisance to other people, it
Yeah.
might be good to try to push the boundaries. And of course, you might overstep the line, but you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. So just do it.
But you said an interesting point, which I'm curious. Looking for permission in schools and in other areas. So I'm curious for you, because I'm just very curious. Where do you get your permission from? And where do you fall in the idea of making an ask? Let me
My
rephrase that.
permission
Yeah. So
nowadays, or when I was a kid, or what?
well, now, so like in the conversation of going out and trying things, right? First, where do you fall in that? Are you good at just asking, making the ask and doing the thing? And if you are and if you aren't, where do you give yourself permission to do the thing? Similar to like in school where you had to have a teacher. Who gives you permission or how do you access that?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's a process that I'm still going through.
Yeah.
And even the 100 Days of No challenge or something similar is one of the things that I was thinking of doing before this conversation already. I talked to my cousin, I think, about this because he's the one that's always trying to push the limits and ask for obnoxious things just for the sake of it, just to like practice.
Yeah.
So, and I think my family, especially my dad and my mom a little bit, they were always like, they don't want to, especially my dad's family, really, like, don't want to overstep the line and don't want to be a nuisance to other people. So you're always like sort of too polite or too nice sometimes. And sometimes you prefer to have someone like, of course, not with big things, but in little things that you kind of prefer to take a small loss than to go and get in a fight for something or in a discussion or in an argument. So I think that was a problem growing up. And of course, I didn't notice it but then. Just noticed those things later. But I think I'm in the process of giving myself permission because you know that thing about knowing yourself and learning more about yourself, self-recognition, all of those things. I think it's also a process of seeing the things that are not yourself, the things that were conditioned by other people, by society, by whoever it was, and that you put those layers, like if there are clothes that you put on top of yourself, but you need to do some pruning and take them off. So you leave like what's really you beneath it. And I don't think that beneath everything I was this person. I always was more of a self-starter, of a person that, I just leave me alone, let me do my own thing, I don't judge anyone. I don't really care if people do this or that with their lives. Just leave me alone and like you do you, I do me, that kind of thing. And but I still think I'm on the process.
Oh, that's exciting. Now I'm curious. Are you going to do the 100-day challenge? Is this a work in progress? Or inching closer?
Yeah, I mean, the work in progress, I guess, has to do with pretty much everything in my life, but the 100-day challenge is still something more in the beginning stages of manifesting in my mind. It's still, but I might do something similar, or at least try to. Of course, I don't think I'd record it, and it's if you make things, if you put too much friction and make things too hard, you might end up not doing them. So, just trying to be more cognizant of it and try to be like, oh, if I'm going to get a coffee, maybe ask for a 10% discount or something. They probably won't give you, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they give you some bubble gum or something to make up for it or whatever it is. Like just those little things, I think might go a long way towards like giving yourself permission.
Oh, I see. Ironically speaking, because I think it's funny when you're talking about like the 10% off. I was going to some store. I had to return an item. I hate returning. Ah, it feels weird. But there was a guy in front of me who was returning a vacuum. What was funny is he was returning a different vacuum than the one he bought on the receipt, and he got a full return for the wrong thing. Maybe it's the store. That's a whole other thing. He's like, but I need a full refund on this item, probably purchased in a different area. Oh, maybe that's not good for the business. That's a whole different problem. But it was really interesting to see the degree of some people make asks.
Yeah, and he got it, and that's the thing. Like, imagine if he was asking for something reasonable.
Right? No, it's crazy. Oh, but I think I need to preach. I need to do that more myself as well, making the asks. Because also sometimes it's like really weird of like, I don't know if you have like this problem of feeling oh, how do I put this into words? Like weakness, like the concept of like asking is a weakness makes you look as if you're incapable of doing something, as if there's no one, as if not everyone in the world needs help at like some point in order to accomplish things. Like it takes a team. Like there's literally like I can't think of many things and like there's a couple things, but most things in life you're never actually done alone, like at all. Just nothing. And I find that interesting that we still think that we have to do it alone as if an ask is the end of the world, which is something I still battle with. But it gets easier a little bit over time,
It
right?
is, it is. It gets easier, and I mean, there are many things that you will do for other people without batting an eye, and you don't have the guts to ask them to do for you. And like, if they're good friends, they'll probably help you if they can.
It's true. I have one more thing because I also want to make sure I'm paying attention to the time. I don't want to keep you forever because I probably will. There was this story about the minimalist. I forget which episode, but they were talking, one of the guys was talking about how he went to dinner, I think, with his nephew or a friend or someone close to him, and he wouldn't let him pay for the dinner. And what was interesting is sometimes it may be ego, maybe it's you want to do something good, but like the concept of not like accepting help in general, when sometimes them wanting to pay or to help you, and it's not always monetary, it's like a sign of showing that they want to be there for you and like support you in some type of way. And by you denying it, it's kind of limiting the way that they can show up in your life and be supportive, which is like a whole different idea in terms of the ask and to give. Because people who are close to you and care about you want to help, but if you're not in a place where you'll even allow it, it's kind of cutting off a part of the relationship that exists to help you as much as it is to help them. It's just like a whole mind.
It is, it is. It's like by not accepting, I've heard this the other day talking to an awesome guy, an awesome friend of mine, Mavericks, about the same thing but with compliments. So if someone gives you a compliment and you don't accept it, it's like you're kind of saying you don't know how to judge. Like you shouldn't be complimenting me. If you're complimenting me, your judgment is bad.
Yeah,
So like you're a terrible judge. You sort of are giving what's the opposite of a compliment? Like
it is. So,
criticism
yeah.
towards him. And yeah, the same thing. If you do this to an older person in your family that wants to buy you lunch or something, and for them, especially well, of course, depends on the culture, depends on the person, but there are
Yeah.
many people, especially older men, that will be like, wow, because for them, being a provider and helping with something tangible or financial is something that's correlated to like their well-being, not their well-being, but like their sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
Because for them, it's like, yeah, being the man and, helping, especially when it comes to an older man helping another woman, I guess, it has something to do with their psyche. And if you don't accept it, especially, I guess, if it's a small thing, he'll be like kind of offended. Like, why doesn't she accept this? It's like, it's almost like if you're, it's almost like if you're hurting him physically.
Yeah. Oh my God, no, you're right. Oh, I never thought of it that way though before. It's funny. There's a book called The Digital Language. And in terms of like, I don't know why you made me think about this because it's interesting the kind of dynamic of being help and like age and ethnicity, not ethnicity, sorry, cultural upbringing. Because in the book itself, it also breaks it down by gender as well and being helpful in like communication. Like they were going through oh, you're a guy. Okay, you're opposite. Let's see if this works for you. So if you're texting someone, right? And you were asking, let's assume you're asking me how I'm doing, right? Like you're trying to get to know my day. If my response to you was just okay, what would you infer from our conversation about how I'm doing?
I know where you want to get to, but yeah, if it was like a friend, that I'd probably think, especially if it was a guy friend and he said, "Yeah, I'm fine." I feel like, yeah, he's fine. So that's what it is. But if it was with my girlfriend, then I might be thinking, well, what does that mean? What is that supposed to mean? Like,
Oh my God, you're a good boyfriend. Joy would always be that way.
yeah, yeah, because, well, like, I have women in my family that, especially my mom, I hope she doesn't see this, that she has a very hard time, like, speaking directly and really asking for what she really wants. She's always, like, going through, and so I kind of know a bit of how to talk to women, I guess, because of that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Dang, you've been, a thing or two. Because I didn't even think you would answer that way. I assumed, see, this is the thing about assumptions, don't assume. I really thought you would have thought it was the same thing either way. So I'm wondering, I guess I'm not trying to make this a relationship thing or go like too deep because I don't want to pry because I will. It's like, how did you get to a level of being consciously aware of what the other person or gender is meaning based on words? Whereas, like, I believe, or at least from like, I read a book called The Male Brain, which is a whole different thing of say what you mean and that is it, versus the sometimes very nuanced language of women.
Yeah, like men and women communication is totally different. It's night and day, and men are much more direct and dare I say logical, and women are much more emotional beings and more nuanced, as you said. And I think this is much worse when you're dealing with text, because with text you don't know the tone.
Yeah.
And I think also the other way around for because I think for men it's something like monotone, like going in and going out. Like you read it kind of monotone, you send it kind of monotone. But for women, you not only send it like assuming that this is your tone, this is obvious that they'll pick it up, but also you read what other people send you and you assume a tone like that's not what he said. That's what he really meant was this. And I see this happening all the time, like with when my mom reads something that my dad sent her, and she's like, "Wow, he's being a bit of an asshole because like he was too blunt or something." And actually, I read it and I'm like, "No, he meant exactly what he said." It's like it's totally fine what he said for me, but since she's super emotional and super, I won't say irrational, but you get the point.
Yeah, but I'm
For her, it's
happy.
something like, "Wow, how could he? He's such an asshole."
But I think that's beautiful though, like to be able to tell the distinction and at least be aware of it. I know sometimes I'll have that kind of conversation and it's like, no, men and women communicate the same. We're all human, but it's like, nope. We're all nuanced, especially when you bring in like cultural upbringings. Oh, and then there was another thing. Again, let me know if I'm talking too much. There was one line in the book where they were talking about the difference between someone who was born and raised in the US versus someone who was born and raised in China, and like the conversation of, communicating what, oh, actually, I'll use this one, answering an email. Whereas, like, and it's different even all over. So here, at least in the east of the US, right, because it's also segmented, you answer as soon as possible to show that you care and that you're interested and you're on point, versus where someone in China, based on the book, that you take time, like it might be like a day or two, maybe a few days before you respond, because it's seen as you reading and digesting what's being said and you're thinking about it. And if you did it vice versa, if I were to go to China and someone's taking like 3 days to respond to me, I'm going to be very angry. I'm going to wonder, where's this communication? Why am I responding to you? Versus like someone in China maybe be more offended by the fact that you responded in like 10 minutes. So it's like all these parallels that sometimes you have to keep in mind of, but I don't think it's like a negative thing either to be like aware of the person you're talking to. So it's like a whole conversation of how much you're actually paying attention to the person you're talking to. Which is why I'm still baffled by the fact that that if your girlfriend says okay, that that there might be something wrong. I want to like applause and like hug you, like more men be this way. This is a thing. But
Yeah, because there are many differences, and you need to know who you're talking to. And of course, we're all human, that's true, but at the same time, we're all different in a way. And of course, it depends on many factors, and we have similarities more or less depending on many factors as well. But at the end of the day, yeah, we have cultural differences, we have a lot of different physical differences, cultural differences, upbringing differences. So you need to know who you're talking to,
yes.
and yeah, with text communication, there's this problem. Of course, it's easier with video or especially in person, but also even audio communication. At least you get the tone of what the person is trying to convey, so it's much easier in that sense. But yeah, also about the email thing, I think it also depends a bit. Like if you send something that doesn't require much of a thoughtful answer, it's more of an yes or no kind of thing. Like just give me the yes or no soon, you don't need to write me the whole Bible and think about it for weeks if it's just yes or no, and vice versa.
I'm sorry. It's funny that you say that only because I might get this wrong. I'll have to Google it again, but they were talking when you're talking about communication. I think oh my God, what are the numbers? I'm gonna get it roughly incorrect, but it was something along the lines of, and don't do the math because it does not add up to 100 this time, but it was like 65, 33, 8 for like communication and understanding people, where it's like mostly non-verbal cues is how you like communicate with someone. Then it's audio and then text and like in-person communication. But I think that's also what makes it so interesting in being able to understand people in text message or with word, because as you said, there's no way to understand what tone or voice or personality or way they're approaching the situation, which I think sometimes also creates a whole bunch of disagreements based on the word. It's so interesting. Oh, when you're talking about audio and in person, but I'll geek out another time. But I just thought that was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. All of these social dynamic things are very interesting to go into, and also at the end of the day, it's more a matter of expectations, I think. Like you were saying, of people getting upset because someone didn't answer in time or took too long to answer, or vice versa. And it's a matter of expectations. Like you have a different expectation, and both people they didn't set the expectations beforehand, and then they get disappointed. But
Yeah.
if you talk about it and you sort of draw the line of, look, this is what I expect, you may or may not do it, but you know what I expect at least, then it gets much easier and you'll have less problems with communication.
God, I love that. I completely agree. Oh, I feel like that's a whole conversation, but yes, I'll stick with that. I agree.
Awesome. And if you could go back a few years and talk to your 18-year-old self, talking to W Hotel and going to Poland, what would you tell her?
Just in general, good luck. I would just say good luck if I'm honest, because if I'm perfectly truthful, if anyone older than me were to talk to me, I'm like, yeah, old person, sage advice that I will not be taking because I'm 18 and I know all. Wish you
You're a
luck.
big girl.
Yeah, but like honestly, I think I wouldn't even necessarily give advice because like at the end of the day, it's like one thing like to hear like someone else to have like an opinion on something, but until you've done it yourself, sometimes you need to have like that experience. So it's just like good luck and survive. Not like the most like cliche sage advice, but oh, that'd be it. It'd just be like good luck with this.
You'll need it.
Yeah, that's about it. That would be my only.
And what did you do in Poland anyway?
Yeah, I went for like native speaking. So I would be like separated between like adults and kids, and we just helped them feel comfortable with English. So it was actually pretty cool. It's like this company called like Angloville, and so like they'll send you to like a hotel, and for like a week you just talk. You talk, you eat, and you spend time with people, and you make them feel comfortable. But it was also interesting because I actually learned a lot about like American culture from these kids and from these adults, even like with music makes me realize I really need to like socialize and get more pop culture references. But it was beautiful to be honest. But I'm trying not to go. So your question is why I was there. That is why I was there. It was for English speaking. I'll go there, or else I'll go on a tangent. But I love Poland. Poland's like one of my favorite countries. People are incredible and so warm, inviting. Although I did get stopped. I don't know what to say. I just talk, so maybe I should say this or not. But it was funny because I did get called. A couple people thought I was a prostitute a couple times. Cultural differences. I would smile to strangers in streets and try to be too nice and
Oh
realize you
yeah.
can do that with strangers in Poland. But learned. Cool. It's the first time anyone's ever said that, so I don't know if that's a compliment. I'll take it. And I ate way too many pierogies and too much food, like barsh, which I think I took a picture of it. I don't know why I'm mentioning barsh. I think it's because I'm hungry and I really want some barsh right now. It's just like a beet soup, blood red, potatoes. Oh, it's the best thing in the world. And I don't even like beets, but now I'm an addict.
I guess you're just hungry then.
That might be it too. Although I did eat an obscene amount, and I only know that because when I was working with the kids, they would eat, and I would eat all of the borscht, and a few kids would look at me kind of sideways as if, "Are you just hungry?" Or, but no, it ended up like all over my face. Yeah, America.
Yeah, I guess it was the first time you were having real food and not what you have in America.
Oh my gosh, do people not like American food for real? I hear that from everyone.
I mean, it's not like the standards are great in America.
Oh my god. Okay, I can't disagree with that. Um, crap. I'm trying really hard to disagree to like support the US in food, but no, you're right. Our government did call pizza a vegetable once. So but at least the portion sizes are like multiple meals to some
Y-
people.
Yeah, but many people they make it a challenge to eat it in one sitting.
So go bags. Eat more. But yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures. Those portions, like a meal for one, is this big.
What? Okay, but come on. It's not just US though, right? Like maybe it's Americanized Vietnamese to our portion size. You know what? Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're right. You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you can get a gallon full of Coke for $1 at 7-Eleven or something like that.
That sounds about right, actually. Well, inflation is $2, right? So yeah.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah, totally. But it is
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, it's fascinating. Like we need the fix of sugar drinks.
Maybe. It's funny, I don't even have sugar drinks. Maybe I feel if I had more, I'd be more American. I need more soda in my life. That's what I'm missing. I'm kidding. I promise I'm kidding. But it's also interesting though because at least we have like lots of like other cultures here that are integrating like with their food. Although I'd also be careful because I feel like I'm turning this conversation into food because now I want just leches cake, but like from like what do they call? I can't speak English. A blue blah? I feel like I really just butchered a Spanish word right now. I think it's grandma in Spanish.
No, abuela.
Abuela, there, yeah, that. I speak other languages, slang English, bilingual. Anyway, I think I'm just bugging now. So I want tres leches, which I realize isn't super sugary like most American desserts. It's actually kind of savory-ish. I'm sorry. I think I'm just thinking about food. Ignore me.
Don't worry, don't worry. We're almost done, so you can eat soon. I know it's hard for an American to fast for 2 hours, so sorry about that.
That's like kind of funny. That's true. Depending, you know what? Yeah, yeah. But aren't you from Brazil though?
Yeah,
So then, like, what we should be eating and how long? Do you like? Can you make some recommendations real quick to like food? Or are you gonna like,
about food.
yeah, are you gonna come to the U.S. and like cook, show us Americans what good food looks like?
I mean, I'm picking on you, but of course, it's even hard to define what's American food. I think people have in our minds, we think about hamburgers, especially maybe hot dogs. Yeah, I guess
Seriously?
more like hamburgers when we think about American food. But I know that you guys have a lot of different things, a lot of ethnic foods, and a lot of cultures that went to America because it's an immigrant country and it has been for centuries. So it also depends where you go, which state or city you go. So I know you guys do have good food, but the standards for industrialized food or for fast food are appalling. And that's, I think, where the joking comes from.
Crap, I feel like I need to eat more. I'm still stuck on hot dogs and hamburgers as American food. It's the first thing you think of.
Oh yeah, maybe pancakes and that kind of thing as well, like the American breakfast, like very diner style American breakfast. I think that's something that comes to mind because in the movies we see people eating pancakes and all of those things, like bacon and eggs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, no, we need to change that messaging. At least add some avocados to that. Maybe some vegetables. But
Yeah,
okay.
avocado toast, and
Yes, that's better.
that's very Californian.
Why does it have to go to California? Ah, but you're right. It is. It's known for that. But okay. You're right. You're right. Okay. I'm not offended.
So, since we're talking about America, the greatest country on earth, according to yourselves, what's your definition of success?
Oh my God, me, success. Honestly, to me, success is being content. Success is you know what? No. It's a combination for me. Success is being content and with what you have and who you are in life instead of trying to like reach this imaginary, I am happy and trying to maintain that as if that's something you can have every moment of your life. But I also think it's about me, it's building a life that you're actually proud of, not what other people want you to have and what you think you need for success, but building a life that when you look back, you're like, you know what, I'm happy about what I did and what I accomplished by your own definition. So those are the two things. I need to be content and I need to build something that I am proud of myself. That to me is success.
And do you think that being content and building something that you'll be proud have anything to do with making content?
Actually, yes, weirdly enough. But to me, it's funny because I've always had an interest. It's ironic only because I've never liked social media. I actually hate social media in general, but it's interesting because every success or opportunity I've ever had in life was because of it. For me, the concept of making content, I find that for content and building life, I think it's important is because my mission is to help people realize their own potential and what they're capable of. And so to me, maybe not lately, I think my content's really kind of all over the place currently, but the idea that I'm putting something out there and that there's someone out there who will connect with it, and because of reading it there might be like a slight shift, or I might be like a, what are they called, like an end note in their life, but to think that there's a possibility that someone needed it when they heard it and it making some kind of impact, to me is building a life that I want to live. And the kind of content I'm making now is more in line with who I am as a person, so that I'm approaching it with a more, I don't want to say the word authentic, but we'll use it. Um, Being myself rather than kind of creating what I would identify as an actor role online in order to get to some kind of goal. So now I know that anything that happens for me that is online driven or content driven is based on who I actually am as a person, identifying with the people that it needs to reach when it needs to reach it. So for me, yes, content is a part of me having my own version of success. Because it took way too long for me to realize who and how I need to approach myself online, which is literally who I am in real life.
Mind blowing.
Yes, it took a year to get there, but yeah, yeah.
And after you started doing this, do you think that you started attracting people that resonate better with who you really are, or people that you like more to get in touch with? Do you think that things changed once you started being more, how do you say, being yourself?
I believe I've just used that terminology, but yes, I do. But I think that's just because to me, like the concept of even like on that online networking, or like networking is such a dirty word sometimes. Connections, like making connections. A part of that to me is what your profile looks like, because it's a part of who you are. And sometimes people are lurkers. I think I said this. I don't know if I wrote about that, but people are lurkers. People want to know who you are before they even communicate. And so it's like aligning who your content with the kind of people you want to receive. And if I won't lie, I also edit it a little bit so that, because there's a specific kind of person I want to communicate and attract myself. But I think it's helpful. I do know that a lot of the people that I've connected with since I started being more myself are people I genuinely like. Like, I don't, is there like, I'm trying to think if there's like one person I connected with since that I'm like, how do I get rid of them? I won't lie, I've had that time. It's like, this is a really hard conversation. I need to leave like really quickly. Like, where's my exit plan? I've had that way too many times. But now I don't think I have. I can't think of a single person. Every kind of conversation I've had is been great and it's been awesome. I mean, I'm learning from so many people, meeting a diverse network of people. I mean, it's incredible the kind of conversations you're able to have from people all over the world. But it only happened because I started being myself. But also, it's like to follow through on the other point of like the content. It all started with actually making the point to be online and to kind of create, oh my God, become a creator. I feel like that's a whole loaded conversation, but it stemmed from actually like making that step, even though I was scared.
That's the most important thing too. Like
Yeah,
being brave is not about doing things without fear, it's about doing things despite fear.
I like that. Did you write can I have that? Like, I need that in my I like
Yeah,
that.
I think I'll tweet it right now so we don't forget about it.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah, it's like courage is not the absence of fear, it's like acting despite the fear or something like that.
Oh, crap. Are we ending this call with me actually finding a motivational quote that I like? This is crazy, but I really do like that. But it's great. It's insane though. But I'm wondering how many people like miss out on opportunities because they think that the fact that they're scared is a reason not to do it. but a reason to do it.
Yeah, I think we end up finding reasons not to do things much more than we should, and we don't look for reasons to do things, and we should look for reasons to do things more than we look for reasons not to. But that's a totally different conversation,
Yes.
and people are not ready for it, I think.
Oh, you mean kind of like the kind of conversation that's based on brutal honesty and how people don't actually want you to be honest, but a curated version?
Yeah, maybe. It makes sense, I guess.
I think I talked about him too much. I think I got that from him. Yeah. The people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, you become the average of the five people you talk to the most, or so they say.
I would rival that and say that you are actually a collection of everyone that you talk to, not necessarily just the ones. Actually, not everyone, but the people you believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when we talk about our belief system. I think a lot. What was it? It was a book on this. It was on. I might get this wrong. It might not be Candor. I read too many books, but they were talking about like the concept that it can come from someone you trust, someone you hate, someone that hates you. But if you accept what they said as truth, that's when it starts to change in your head about what meaning and your belief systems and what's true, but not necessarily just someone you associate with. It could be a one-time thing that's replicated around several people before it's solidified, which is also
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Ah,
It is, it is.
people.
Yeah, don't get me started on synchronicities and all of those things. But do you have some final questions or final considerations that you like to give or to ask? The floor is yours.
Honestly, I'm curious what took you so long to start doing these podcasts.
Good question.
And where you're looking to go with it, like, and the idea around it. I don't think I've heard you talk about that anywhere as of late.
Yeah, this is the first time you'll ever hear about it. No, to be honest, if I went back about a year ago, I wouldn't ever think that I'd be doing this
Yeah.
because of self-consciousness and like not wanting to put myself out there and being a bit scared of the exposure. I wouldn't say scared, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
you uncomfortable with putting yourself out there on video, especially. So I was looking into like the creator economy indirectly because I consumed a lot of YouTube and podcasts on Spotify and whatnot as well. So I was starting to pick up on, well, these guys, living with they aren't making a living just with ad revenue. They're doing something else. And it's not only sponsorships. And then I started picking up that they had funnels, they had products of their own, or they had a coaching of their own, or whatever it was that they were selling. So that actually YouTube and those other medias or social medias or mediums, they are places that are more like going to a mall or a store where they're displaying their work. But to actually get the product, you have to like really buy it. You need to order it, and that started being a bit fascinating to me. And then I took a look into there's this thing. Have you ever seen those faceless YouTube channels?
Yes.
So I didn't do one for myself, but I did consider doing one because I saw that there were those guys that were getting good revenue putting shorts on YouTube, and those either they record themselves speaking or they use AI voices or even voice actors. Like there are people who do anything really. And so I was starting to think about doing it. And then around March, my girlfriend, who we just started dating at the time, she was like, "Why don't you put a video out on Instagram and like just do it and see what happens?" And one day it was like, a random weekday, like a Wednesday or something, and she said it, like, why don't you do it today? And I was like, man, I need to do it now because if I don't, she'll think I'm a pussy or something. So, yeah, because, in the beginning, you're trying to kind of like impress the other person.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, now I need to do something. So I did a video and it was faceless. It was just like showing some books, like, I don't know, like top 5 books for young professionals or entrepreneurs or whatever it was. So it was books that I had in my house, and I made a video like showing the cover, and then the name of the book would appear, and that kind of thing. Very basic, but it was like, whoa, I did it. And then I did another one with books, and I ended up doing a few, and then I ended up doing some shorts as well, like with Instagram stories, but showing my face and like talking to the camera. And those were the first ones. And that was like March, April-ish
Yeah.
last year. So it was a construction that I was doing. So when it was around August or September, I decided to try out the podcast thing. And of course, in the beginning, you're like, oh, how do I record? Oh, I don't have a camera, I don't have a microphone. You start kind of overthinking because overthinking is a procrastination in and of itself. So you're like trying to go on tangent so you don't have to really put in the work and really appear. But eventually I got over that hump as well, and I put some episodes, and the first ones I did just like you did actually. I think I did put the links on my social media, but since no one followed me, no one watched anyway, just a few of my friends. And the few ones that did watch were like, yeah, that's awesome. And the feedback was mostly good, so I kept going. But it was actually more something for myself, more of a challenge for myself. Until when it was around October, I did the first one with a guest that was with Redham. So he was my first. And then I did a couple more and a couple more alone. And that was it for that in November. And now I'm back. So now I'm recording, and I'm recording a bunch of episodes back to back to back to back. Like last week and this week have been very intense. And I hope to have a few months of content ready so that I always have like this stockpile so that I can tap into it, so I don't need to be social all the time and get in the hamster wheel. So like have an intense period and then you can sort of slack off a little bit. So I'm in this process and in this period. So right now I'm on the few weeks where I'm like stockpiling for the second season, and then I hope to be able to just like leverage the episodes and like use them without having to record new stuff all the time. Like, of course, I can like talk to you or to Redham and say, let's record next week one more, and but by not needing to, it's much more empowering. So you know that you only do something now if you really need to, like or if you really want to, really. Not you don't need to do another episode for the next 2 or 3 months because you already have a bunch of them. So yeah, I ended up giving you like the whole story, but yeah, in a nutshell, no, in the beginning I was self-conscious about it, but when you feel self-conscious about something, that's when you need to target it and to go and face the fear. And it's like we talked about earlier, like being courageous is not about not having fear. It's about acting despite the fear or despite the sensation that people might not like it. Or, in the end, I think it's something that's more internal than external, at least for me. Like, it's not that I care that much that people will hate me or something. It's more like all of those things that we talked about failure, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, but what if it's terrible and no one watches it and my results are bad and I'm a failure and so what, you know? The worst that can happen is that no one watches, okay, but at least I'm practicing my public speaking and practicing my social anxiety. So at least I'm getting some new skills. So it's a win-win, I guess.
But I find it so crazy. Like the idea, well, I have additional questions, but also I'm curious. You talk about social anxiety. It doesn't even show. You look calm. You answer to me like I do this all the time. Let's just have a conversation. Like, is it
Yeah,
coming more
but
natural?
yeah, like I told you before, it's a process. It's not something that you'll wake up one day and you'll be better. It's about putting in the work for weeks, months, years, and it's a process, really. It's not like you won't wake up and wow, now I'm super good at answering things on a whim. That's not what's gonna happen. But of course, you can put yourself through some things that will accelerate the process. So if you do something like stand-up comedy, or if you go on a karaoke or something like that, where you're kind of put on, you're put on stage, you get that feeling, that stage fright, that adrenaline. If you do that kind of thing, or at least those were things that I did, but things that make you a bit scared, things that you're like, maybe it can be cold DMing someone, it may be calling someone, it may be asking for a discount, whatever it is. But by doing those little things, like little by little, you will get more confident and more, you won't feel as anxious when someone asks you a question and you're like, oh my God, what should I answer? And you're thinking about 100 answers that you could give and you're all over the place. So it's a bit of practice and exposure theory and you'll get there.
To ask, is there any video, not proof, but any video work of you doing karaoke or stand up that exists somewhere?
Karaoke, yes. I have some on my cell phone. Because there's this bar that I like to go with my friends that every Thursday they have an open mic, and if you sing, you get beer. So I used to go a lot there on Thursdays so I could get some beer, and but I don't have anything online posted, I think.
Okay, okay. It's like, oh my gosh, where are those
But
vocals?
it's not even like because of shyness or anything, it's because the quality usually is terrible, like the filming and the audio. Because it's in the middle of a bar with a cell phone, so of course it's terrible. And my friends are not the best of like the cinematographers or anything. So I guess that's the biggest reason that I wouldn't put it anywhere. But yeah, yeah. I like doing those things that challenge you and put you out of the comfort zone and
Okay, okay. I'll just imagine you and your vocals and your sounds. But then I do have one more question then, or at least I'll leave it here. In this process of you like getting comfortable going online and creator economy, where in this process, where are you now in terms of doing something in the now and committing from when you first started to actually upload your book video onto Instagram? Where are you now on getting started? And like, how's your mind shifted in your views?
oh, it's night and day. I think that you improve so much and so fast that when you look back a few months ago and you think, wow, you've already changed so much in a span of 1, 2, 3 months. Like, it's very interesting to see like how much you change and how quick you do.
Yeah.
So 1 year ago, I never think that I would be having so many awesome people, and really, I've had a lot of awesome people these last few days, like yourself, and just the process of asking people to do something was something that was daunting for me. And not only asking them, but having them here and talking to them for hours on end, just me on one with another person. And they're all, it's like little steps on the ladder that you're climbing one by one, but you're climbing one every day or two every day or three every day. So every day you're doing those little challenges. So those things start piling up. So not only do you feel better about doing them and the quality also hopefully improves, but also I think your mind starts shifting a bit. So you start seeing the value of what you're doing as well, because first you're confident because you've done it more times. So it's not like, oh, it's not my first rodeo. I've done it before. So you're a bit more confident about it. But now that with our talk, for instance, about talking to the big guys and cold DMing and seeing what happens, like this was something that was still, or maybe it's still in the process of being dissolved in my mind. Like, oh, how am I going to ask someone with 100,000 followers if they like to hop on a podcast with me or something like that? And that was like, no way that I'm gonna do this. But maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next week, maybe next month, I'll be doing this. And of course, I might try with 10, I might try with 100, and most of them won't respond. Most of them will say no, but maybe one of them says yes. And then that would be fucking awesome to have one of those big guys with a large following on. So, yeah, I think this process of breaking those mental barriers is very important.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on that. I'm just excited for you in general. Because it's funny, you actually also helped me. I have like all those canned podcast episodes and like listening to you, and you're like, yeah, just I'm not worried about like editing and making this. I just put it out. Like the people who need to see it will see it, and it'll be great. Because now I'm like, crap. I think I need to just like post them. Maybe I just post them and stop being like a perfectionist. I've talked a lot about that. Now it's like stuck in my head. I think I'm just going to do that too. Uh,
Yeah, do it, do it, do it. I want to see them out.
okay. I'm gonna start with one today and I'll send it to you just to like prove for myself and you so that I don't like wait an hour and I'm like, yeah, maybe he forgot and I'll wait like 5 more months and eventually I'll get the balls to do this. So
No, no, you need to do it today.
okay. I'll do it today and then I'll send it to you for like confirmation that it's
Yeah,
done. But
yeah. The first one
yeah.
is the hardest, always.
Okay, okay. So thank you. I love this conversation. I'm just happy to be here. Like I slid in and I was like,
No,
I gotta have a call.
no, it's my pleasure having you. I think you have a bunch of cool stories, and we didn't even get into all of them today. But we can do it a second time, and I think there are many stories that people will like, and next time we'll be able to say, "Look, I put all of my podcasts, and now I am a famous podcaster," and that will be great. And there was something else I was gonna say that I forgot now. Yeah, just do it. Just do it. The people that will like it, the people that will resonate with it won't be like they won't be like, "Oh, she didn't edit that little thing that she said wrong." Like they won't really care. Especially because usually when you're listening to a podcast, you're doing something else as well. So you're sort of listening but not listening at the same time. So it's a medium that you don't need to care that much about details. I think, of course, if you get to the level of a Chris Williamson or those guys that film with 8K cameras, of course,
Fudge.
it's something else. But at our level, I don't think we need to worry that much with those things.
It's funny you say that. You just reminded me something. There's this guy, yup, named Young So Chung, who did something similar. I don't know if you heard of a podcast called First Class Founders by chance.
I think I've heard about it.
He was like in one of my groups. This guy literally just decided to do a podcast I think last year. And now he's like, what was it? He's actually one of the top five, I think, in his category because he just kept doing podcasts and just hosting them. Oh my God.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, you made me think about that. Oh, you're right. And he's so nice and so responsive. He's like and such a sweet guy. So now I'm like, I don't have like a goal to be super big, but like just to do like consistently and have like cool conversations and maybe geek out and get real weird. I like weird. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's awesome, I think. You also teach yourself something by doing something consistently and putting out something consistently. It's like a muscle that you have to exercise, like you do with the newsletter and your secret podcast. It's a muscle that you're exercising, like you're telling your brain, look, you can do it. You can do it like on a consistent basis. So just do it. You want to do that other thing that you think you're not good enough or whatever it is, whatever is the bullshit excuse, but you are good enough because you can do a newsletter, you can do a podcast, and you can do the other podcast as well if you want to. So you just teach your brain, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it.
Oh, that's true with like real proof. Ah, I love this. It's like my happy place. You're talking about consistency and proof. Okay. Sorry, let me not get way too weird on this. But no, you're right. I love that. I'm excited. I like started this conversation with you excited, and now I'm just like even more pumped. I'm more pumped and hungry now, but still
Yeah, let's fucking go. Let's post those episodes now.
okay.
And to anyone watching or listening, you are bullshitting yourself as well. And you should go and post that thing or talk to that girl or, you know, ask for a raise or whatever it is that you're too afraid. Just do it, man.
I support that. And I look forward for the results when they like comment you on I did it and here's what happened. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
got fired.
It's like,
Full disclaimer, I have no obligation. If you get fired, that's your loss.
oh my God. I think that's perfect. Just fired. Done.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is also a perfect ending to a great conversation of almost 3 hours.
Oh my God, you're
La
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nichole Morris, do you want to plug anything? Do you want to plug your newsletter or your profile? Where should people follow you?
I don't even want to plug. I just want like this conversation for someone to be like, hey, maybe I'll do the thing and then actually do the thing so we could do it together. Well, I do my scary podcast thing. They do their scary, whatever it may be. Hopefully they don't get fired. And that's like the message. That's it. That's where I want to go. Don't get fired and do it. Come on.
Hopefully, don't get fired.
Yes. But thank you for having me. Seriously.
No, thank you for coming. It was my pleasure. Great conversation.
Thanks.